Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Civil Law. And for today's story, what we have unedited videos that have been provided by 60 Minutes, CBS, in response to allegations from the FCC as well as a lawsuit from Donald Trump. So if you can remember back to when Kamala Harris was running for office, she gave an interview to 60 Minutes, and they asked her a question. And 60 Minutes produced two answers to that question. They initially released an answer to the question as part of a preview that they released on social media. So they initially released the actual answer on 60 Minutes, but then later when they aired it, they had provided a much different interview. And so there has been an allegation that this might actually amount to election interference. And so Donald Trump is suing them for $10 billion, plus the FCC is investigating. And the FEC is investigating, I believe. And today, in answer to the FCC's inquiry, because CBS is broadcast, so they have to respond to the FCC, they provided the unedited videos as well as the unedited transcripts. So first of all, for those of you who forgot what the controversy is about, we're going to watch the twin clips back to back. And then we're going to watch the full interview. That was had in its several parts. Now, I do have to give a disclaimer and a content warning, which is not normally my thing. I don't normally do the disclaimer and content warning, but I feel like this occasion warrants it. Okay, this video and this stream may contain speech from Kamala Harris. I know, I'm disappointed too. I thought we might never have to hear from her again, but alas, our fate is sealed. So Kamala Harris may be speaking. Great. Let's do that. All right. So here's what the twin things were. So here we go. Here's what they broadcast in their twin things.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Yeah, those are kind of different, right? Those are kind of different things. So those were the two ones that were broadcast. One was a word salad answer, and one was not. So we're going to watch this in three parts because it's what they provided to the FCC. So first, we're going to watch a 4-minute walk and talk. Then we're going to watch a 57-minute unedited interview with Kamala Harris. 57 minutes of me and Kamala Harris. And then we're going to watch 3 minutes and 30 seconds of an interview with Liz Cheney. This video may also contain speech from Liz Cheney. All right, let's do this thing.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Oh, that's the most natural thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's good to see you.
Boy, a lot has changed.
Oh boy, wow, surprised to see you here. Wow, it's so natural. It's not like it's staged in any way. We're 25 seconds into this thing. Holy shit.
I saw you last.
A few things have changed.
A few things have changed.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
You well?
I am.
Okay, good.
So I think we're supposed to just take a stroll here.
Okay.
And so tell me, this must feel to you like an especially perilous time for the U.S. and for the world. It must.
I think the stakes couldn't be higher in this election cycle. When I think about what is at stake in terms of our standing in the world and the importance of America maintaining our strength and the respect that we have earned over a long period of time to be an upholder of international rules and norms, such as where we stand as it relates to Ukraine and the importance of fighting for the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity. When I think about it in terms of what is at stake, in terms of the sacred obligation that we have to uphold an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and all it stands for. And tragically, those principles and those foundational principles are very much at stake in this election. When you look at the contrast that we have here, where you have the former president who has refused to honor the will of the people in a free and fair election, and it's still, where you have someone who has openly been willing to neglect our allies and the responsibility we have to our allies around the world. When you think about it in the context of the former president who has openly said he'll be a dictator on day one. So yes, there are some very fundamental issues that are at stake right now that, and the consequence of this election, I think, is a very serious matter.
Are you hearing from the voters, the people you're seeing on the campaign trail? Are they expressing similar concerns?
Yes, very much.
And what do you tell them? What do you tell the voters? What do you tell our allies?
So, for example, we're here today in Wisconsin, and I think I've been here now well over a dozen times since I've been vice president. And the people in this state, the people around the country who I visit with and listen to, are very, they want to know that the leadership of our country is leadership that believes in the fact that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. They want and yearn for the belief that we are fighting for the future and not trying to turn the page backward. In fact, they really are quite exhausted with a lot of the rhetoric and the posturing that has been about dividing the country and having Americans point their finger at each other. I think people are ready to turn the page. They're ready for a new generation of leadership that is about the future, that is focused on what we can do to chart a new way forward. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk about exhausted. You must be.
I will be exhausted on November 6th. Not before then. Not before then.
All right.
That was 4 minutes of my life. If I don't make it, I like to bequeath my worldly possessions to Clemson, the university. I had good memories there. Okay. Let's do this. This next clip is 57 minutes long. Oh, God, help me.
Coming through. Okay, hi everyone. Well, welcome to Mikasa.
Oh, thank you.
Hi.
Hello again, Madam
How are
Vice
you?
President. How
Good
are
to
you
see you,
today?
Bill. Very well. Thank you.
good.
Very
Thank you
well.
for
Hi
welcoming us
everyone.
here.
Hi. What a crew.
What a crew.
Okay.
Big day. Please.
Please, yes.
You got some beautiful artwork here.
I would love to. You haven't been here.
For the Christmas.
Except right. I have to. I've so little known. Maybe part of my background is I attended a fine art school for a period of time, and even just growing up, we would go to the California Academy of Arts on weekends. Anyway, I love art, and so when I came in as vice president, I partnered with FAPE, which is a nonprofit that helps supply art around the world for embassies. And I sat down with the curator and gave them an idea, and including with the Baltimore Museum, gave them an idea of what I'd like.
Why do we need a nonprofit to help supply art for embassies? Why is that a nonprofit that exists? I don't understand. Why do you need a nonprofit to distribute art to embassies? Wouldn't they just get the art from the State Department, or if you're talking about embassies of other countries, from their foreign ministry, as the case may be? Why do we need a nonprofit to distribute art to the embassies? What the hell? 1 minute into this, 1 minute, 9 seconds. I'm never going to make it.
And so, you know, normally in this house, it's a lot of art, which is like scenes of pastures with sheep.
Also, who gets into that nonprofit? You know, geez, I have a philanthropic spirit. I want to go save the world. And the way I want to do that is, let me see. I want to feed the poor. No. I want to clothe the poor. No. Housing for the poor. No. I want to help with logistics in Africa. No. I want to get rid of malaria. No. No, my life's mission is to supply art to embassies. That's the philanthropic call I have. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead, I brought like Carrie Mae Weems. Are you familiar with her?
I am indeed.
And then, do you know Fred Wilson?
I don't know Fred Wilson.
Okay, so
That's a beautiful
chandelier,
piece.
that chandelier, I begged him. He does big installations, and I've had many a world leader in this dining room, and they'll walk by it and they'll say, "Oh, is that Venetian?" And I tell them accurately, "No, it's Harlem." So Fred Wilson, who is a black man who lives in New York, did that piece. It's all on them. Then that's Ed Clark. You know who Ed Clark is?
Emotional, damn it!
Sam Gillum, and he, you know, I'm so sorry that he knew it was here. He was alive when I first came in, but it was at the height of COVID, and then he passed. But his family has come to see it. But he was so happy that his art was in his house.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's all on rotation. Like that one I'll show you is a young black woman from North Carolina. She is, so Carmen Neely is her name.
That's
And
stunning.
yes, she's really, and so, you know, all the people like you who come in the house who are such, you know, opinion leaders, to be able to showcase all of this for people to see. And then, you know, these world leaders, they'll say, "That's American art." Yes, it
How
is.
about that?
Yes, it is.
How about that?
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, yes. Yeah, do whatever you want. You know, I have no pride about this stuff. Okay. Go on, whatever you need to do.
Hang on.
Okay.
Is everybody's cell phone on silent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then, you know that mold is at an all-time high today, which is the
I
one
did
thing
not.
I am allergic to.
Yeah.
Okay. Pollen is down,
Mold is up.
mold is up. You know, I know that as a matter of fact, because I was watching CBS this morning.
All right.
They
There you
have
go.
a little stream, now that I think about it.
Learn something.
I'm not going to make it through the cackles. I'm not going to make it through the cackles. I can't do it. Bev D gives $10, say, "Oh, Kurt, I'll talk. Just make it stop." I wish I could. I wish I could make it stop. 3 minutes. 3 minutes into this 57-minute video. 3 minutes.
Something new every day.
Indeed.
See you, Chris? I'm gonna just snap it once. Good? Yep. Coming around. Done?
Yeah.
Got it on both?
Okay, so we need to clear the background?
Good, done?
Yes.
No problem. Just do what you need to do.
We're all perfectly happy?
Everybody happy?
Oh, you're supposed to work.
Good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, Madam Vice President, one, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
And thank you for inviting us into your home.
Of course.
Not for nothing, but I'm not 100% sure calling it her home is really right. It's not her home. It's the vice president's home. But maybe that's semantics.
We're going to be running this on the anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel.
October 7th.
So let's just start with
Hang on
Israel.
1 second, Bill.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had someone in the background. I'm afraid you're going to have to re-ask that.
Okay, whoever's in the dining room? It was me. Okay.
So yeah, just to start with Israel.
Okay.
The events of the past few weeks have pushed us to the brink, if not into, an all-out regional war in the Middle East. What can the U.S. do at this point to stop this from spinning out of control?
Well, let's start with October 7th, because obviously what we do now must be in the context of what has happened. And as I reflect on a year ago, and that 1,200 people were massacred, young people at a festival, at a music festival. 250 hostages were taken, including Americans. Women were brutally raped. And as I said then, I maintain Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters.
But
And as we fast forward into what we have seen in the ensuing weeks and months, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we know that, and I think most agree, this war has to end. And that has to be our number one imperative. And that has been
Israel has the right to defend itself, except for the fact it totally doesn't. Yeah.
our number one imperative. How can we get this war to end? Well, critical elements of that are we have got to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. We have to get aid in. We have to lay the path toward a two-state solution. I do believe that we must maintain that as an objective, no matter how out of reach it seems at the moment. And the work that we have to do is also pay attention to what is happening every day in the region and put U.S. resources into everything we can do diplomatically and otherwise to de-escalate what is happening in the region.
We supply Israel with billions of dollars in military aid. And yet, Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be charting his own course. The Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has pressed him to agree to a ceasefire. He's resisted. You urged him not to go into Lebanon. He went in anyway. He has promised to make Iran pay for the missile attack, and that has the potential of expanding the war. Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, let's start with this. On this subject, the aid that we
I mean, Jerry in chat asks, how much of this are we going to watch? I mean, I know that I'm just hearkened to watch every word of the vice president. And I am reconsidering my vote for Trump in real time because her words are letting me know I made a mistake. Yeah, I'm hearkened.
have given Israel, allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And I think that is the most recent example of why what we do to assist in their defense around military aid is important. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah,
Every word she says sounds so thin. It's like the most superficial understanding of the answer. It's like the most superficial understanding of the situation. It's like a high schooler giving a book report. That's what it's like. It's like there's no real depth to the situation, no real depth. It's a good surface level understanding of the situation, but there's no depth to her answer. It's so hollow.
Presents Iran. I think that it is, without any question, our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include
Find a punctuation mark.
The need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done, which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not.
Find a period. End a sentence.
Not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure
But
on Israel and in the region, including with other leaders in the region, including Arab leaders.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. The Wall Street Journal said that that your administration has repeatedly been blindsided by Netanyahu. And in fact, he has rebuffed just about all of your administration's entreaties.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements.
Also, I'm curious why, when CBS decided to release this, they released it with the image pointing at him, with the video camera pointing at him, because they released it unedited, but they released the video pointing at him. It's like, why aren't we looking at Kamala Harris the entire time? Why are we looking at him the entire time? Does CBS not want us to see her shining a glorious face? Why did they choose this camera angle to release?
In that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. And we're not going to stop doing that. We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Just one last, do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes. And we are going to do what is important to support whatever leadership is in Israel that is defending the security of the state of Israel.
Let's shift gears here. A most basic of questions. Why do you want to be President of the United States?
There are many reasons, but probably first and foremost, I truly believe in the promise of America. I do. And I love the American people. You know, we are a people who have ambition and aspirations and dreams and optimism and hope. If you look at the character of who we are and how we have achieved the strength that we have achieved, I believe in large part it is because of our character and our belief in the promise of America. And I'm running for president because I want to do everything that is possible to create an opportunity for people to achieve those goals, those ambitions, and those dreams. And that is why you will hear me talk about my plan for an opportunity economy, to invest in what we can do, not only to bring the cost of living and prices down for folks, because even though we've achieved a lot of success, prices are still too high. You know it, I know it. But what we can do to invest in the innovation that is happening in startups and our small businesses, what we can do to invest in the industries of the future, what we can do to maintain America's strength in the global context.
But that's why.
I don't know what she just said. I can't be alone on this, right? What did she just say? There's no depth to it. There's no depth to it. So it just runs right past you because your mind isn't catching anything. It's just like a wave. It's like a babbling brook. And then you can't really remember it when it's done. It's like, what did she just say? If you put a gun to my head and asked me to tell you what she just said, I couldn't do it. Yeah, it's like a trance-like state.
Why you want to run. That's why you want to be
That's why I'm
president.
running. That and some other reasons.
But you're asking the American people to make you the most powerful person on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you deserve the American
Did the
people?
FCC post this on their own did the FCC post this as well? This is actually on 60 Minutes website. Did the FCC actually post this? That would just be way too hilarious. Oh, they did. Oh, guys. Oh, I don't know whether to praise the person who just told us that or curse you. I don't know whether to praise you or curse you. The FCC posted the entire interview, but they posted the other camera shot. CBS posted the camera shot facing the interviewer. The FCC posted the interview facing Kamala. So for all you guys who were so disappointed you weren't going to see Kamala, fear not. We're going to go back to the start of the interview. We're going to go back to square one. I don't want you to miss a thing. And we're going to now watch the interview from the start featuring Kamala Harris. Exciting.
And then, you know that mold is at an all-time high today, which is the one thing I am allergic to.
Yeah,
Okay. Pollen is down,
mold is up.
mold is up. You know, I know that as a matter of fact, because I was watching CBS this morning.
There you go.
Now that I think about it.
Learn something new every day.
Indeed.
See you, Chris? I'm gonna just snap it once. Good? Yep. Coming around. John?
Yeah.
Got it on both?
Okay, so we need to clear the background?
Good, Don?
Yes.
No problem. Just do what you need to do.
We're all perfectly happy?
Everybody happy?
Oh, you're supposed to work.
You good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, Madam Vice President, one, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
And thank you for inviting us into your home.
Of course.
We're going to be running this on the anniversary of the Hamas attack
Yeah,
on Israel.
October 7th.
So let's just start with
Hang on
Israel.
1 second, Bill.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had someone in the background. I'm afraid you're gonna have to re-ask that.
Okay, whoever's in the dining room? It was me. Okay.
So yeah, just to start with Israel.
Okay.
The events of the past few weeks have pushed us to the brink, if not into, an all-out regional war in the Middle East. What can the U.S. do at this point to stop this from spinning out of control?
Well, let's start with October 7th, because obviously what we do now must be in the context of what has happened. And as I reflect on a year ago, and that 1,200 people were massacred, young people at a festival, at a music festival. 250 hostages were taken, including Americans. Women were brutally raped. And as I said then, I maintain Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. and how it does so matters. And as we fast forward into what we have seen in the ensuing weeks and months, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we know that, and I think most agree, this war has to end. And that has to be our number one imperative. And that has been our number one imperative. How can we get this war to end? Well, critical elements of that are we have got to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. We have to get aid in. We have to lay the path toward a two-state solution. I do believe that we must maintain that as an objective, no matter how out of reach it seems at the moment. And the work that we have to do is also pay attention to what is happening every day in the region and put U.S. resources into everything we can do diplomatically and otherwise to de-escalate what is happening in the region.
We supply Israel with billions of dollars in military aid, and yet Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be charting his own course. The Biden-Harris administration, has pressed him to agree to a ceasefire. He's resisted. You urged him not to go into Lebanon. He went in anyway. He has promised to make Iran pay for the missile attack, and that has the potential of expanding the war. Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, let's start with this. On this subject, the aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And I think that is the most recent example of why what we do to assist in their defense around military aid is important. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure on Israel and in the region, including with other leaders in the region, including Arab leaders.
But it seems that
What?
Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. The Wall Street Journal said that that your administration has repeatedly been blindsided by Netanyahu. And in fact, he has rebuffed just about all of your administration's entreaties.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. And we're not going to stop doing that. We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
What fucking kind of answer is that? I did debate in middle school. I did high school debate. I did college debate. I did debate in law school. Give me a high school debater. Give me a high school debater. Some of them could absolutely crush her. What kind of fucking answer is that?
Just one last. Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes. And we are going to do what is important to support whatever leadership is in Israel that is defending the security of the state of Israel.
Wow.
Let's shift gears here. Most basic of questions. Why do you want to be President of the United States?
There are many reasons, but probably first and foremost, I truly believe in the promise of America. I do. And I love the American people. You know, we are a people who have ambition and aspirations and dreams and optimism and hope. If you look at the character of who we are and how we have achieved the strength that we have achieved, I believe in large part it is because of our character and our belief in the promise of America. And I'm running for president because I want to do everything that is possible to create an opportunity for people to achieve those goals, those ambitions, and those dreams. And that is why you will hear me talk about my plan for an opportunity economy, to invest in what we can do, not only to bring the cost of living and prices down for folks, because even though we've achieved a lot of success, prices are still too high. You know it, I know it. But what we can do to invest in the innovation that is happening in startups and our small businesses, what we can do to invest in the industries of the future, what we can do to maintain America's strength in the global context.
But that's why you want to run. That's why you want to be
That's why I'm
president.
running. That and some other reasons.
But you're asking the American people to make you the most powerful person on the planet. Why do you deserve the American people's votes?
Well, first of all, I have a career and a history of being very clear that I think of my role of leadership, and in particular now for the last 4 years as vice president and moving forward as president, if the voters will have me, as being a leader on behalf of all Americans. As you know, I spent the majority of my career as a prosecutor. And I'm going to tell you, I never asked a victim of crime, a witness, whether they were a Democrat, are you a Republican, are you an independent. The only thing I ever asked folks is, are you okay? And I believe that America deserves a leader who works on behalf of all Americans and understands the importance of knowing that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. And my
$10 from Philip Coogan's. All the Queen's horses, all the Queen's men couldn't properly edit an answer again. Yeah. Bev D says, just for that, I want my $10 back. Gina Penguin, she says, she gives the same look to a fresh bottle of wine. On a serious note, she's a prime example of reverse ASMR. Raven gave $19.99 to give me a hippo, giving a victory symbol. Navel, not navel, although navel might be appropriate here. It's all navel gazing. Tony P gave $5 to say super chats and membership gifts keep Kurt sane. The thing, it's so hollow. That's the thing. Her answers are just so hollow. They are Miss America answers. They're Miss America answers. Which to some degree need to be hollow because they need to be completely unoffensive. But there's absolutely no substance to them at all. They're beauty pageant answers. They're superficial. The only thing that I'm trying to debate in my mind right now is whether the word vacuous or vapid is a better description of Kamala Harris. Is she vacuous or is she vapid? I'm not sure.
career and my work has always been about being grounded in common sense approaches to getting things done. And when it comes to what we need to do as it relates to national security, we just had that conversation. That includes understanding and respecting the power and the strength of the United States of America and our then responsibility to be a global leader, to nurture and strengthen our alliances around the world, to respect the U.S. military and its most noble mission, to do the work of appreciating alliances, be it NATO or others.
Or others? Are you asking a question? Are you asking a question? Others? Are you asking a question?
To do the work of pursuing diplomacy when it is in the best interest of our national security and prosperity. And my experiences tell me not only that those must be priorities of the United States of America and the President of the United States of America and the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America, but also all of those experiences tell me that the American people in this election have a clear choice. Because on the other side of the equation, we are looking at the former president, Donald Trump, who has shown himself to be, when he was a commander-in-chief, someone who gave away America's standing in terms of our principles of standing up to dictators and autocrats. You see how he compliments Putin even today. Someone who was prepared to walk away from our alliances. NATO is the strongest military alliance the world has ever known. We have seen someone in Donald Trump who openly criticizes the United States military, men and women who are prepared to, at great sacrifice, serve our country and defend the principles upon which we were founded. He calls them suckers and losers.
But Madam Vice President, a quarter of registered voters still say they don't know you. They don't know what makes you tick. And why do you think that is? I mean, you have...
Because she's empty inside. The question, what makes you tick, has a built-in presumption that there's something that makes you tick. And she's empty inside. She's a clock with no guts. She has no mainspring.
Been vice president for almost 4 years. You've been on the national scene for longer. What's the disconnect?
It's an election, Bill. And I take it seriously that I have to earn everyone's vote. And that's why I'm traveling our country. I've seen you in a few states in the last couple of days. I am talking with folks where they...
It must be why the deep state loves her so much, because she's so empty. She's so empty. The deep state loves her because she's so empty. She can be anything they want it to be.
I am listening to folks and working to earn the vote of every American. This is an election for President of the United States. No one should be able to take for granted that they can just declare themselves a candidate and automatically receive support. You have to earn it. And that's what I intend to do.
Let me tell you what your critics and the columnists say.
Okay.
They say that the reason so many voters don't know you is that you have changed your position on so many things. You were against fracking, now you're for it. You supported looser immigration policies, now you're tightening them up. You were for Medicare for all, now you're not. So many that people don't truly know what you believe or what you stand for, and I know you've heard that.
So let's be clear. First of all, a lot of the positions that you were talking about have been discussed and dispensed with in 2020, 4 years ago. But let me be clear on something. In the last 4 years, I have been Vice President of the United States. not a senator from a particular state, not coming from a particular state, but Vice President of the United States of America.
Thanks for clearing that
And I
up.
have been traveling our country, and I have been listening to folks and seeking what is possible in terms of common ground, common sense solutions, building consensus. And that is why I have taken the positions that I take. Not dispensing with my values, but understanding we have to, a real leader has to find consensus. So for example, on the issue of fracking, I've been very clear since 2020. I will not end fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, as vice president of the United States, I cast the decisive vote. I broke the tie in Congress that now allows more leases for fracking. On the issue of health care in America, my value has always been that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it, which is why I cast the tie-breaking vote in the United States Congress that has now allowed us to cap the...
You know, that's the second time she said I cast a tie-breaking vote in the United States Congress, which is technically correct, but try calling a member of the Senate congressman sometime. Right? Try calling a member of the Senate congressman sometime. It's technically correct. It probably won't end well. Yeah.
The cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month. The work that I have been a part of and helped lead about capping the cost of prescription medication for our seniors at $2,000 a year, all born out of my belief that we need to bring the price of medication down because it has been too expensive for too many people to the point that they couldn't even afford to fill their prescription. That's why I've been a huge advocate for what we have accomplished finally to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of the American people.
You have said that your values haven't changed, but your positions have. And I think people want to know, is this evolution or, as your critics say, opportunism?
I think that we should understand the importance of a leader building consensus. I believe in building consensus. And I believe in finding a way that the American people, and we are a diverse people, geographically, regionally, based on whether it be urban, rural, agricultural, we are a diverse people in terms of where we are in our backgrounds. And what the American people do want is that we have leaders who can build.
We've got a north, we've got a south, we've got an east, and I'm not sure if you know this, but we've got a west. From the mountains to the valleys to the oceans, white with foam even. Great.
Consensus, where we can figure out compromise and understand it's not a bad thing as long as you don't compromise your values to find common sense.
What are your values, woman? What are your values?
Let's move on to the economy. As you were saying, well, first of all, the economy and inflation, those are the primary concerns of the American voters this election year. You just got some blockbuster jobs report, a blockbuster job report the other day. And there are lots of signs that the American economy is doing very well. Better than most countries, I think. But the American people don't seem to be.
I would give real money if someone can, like, I need a goddamn translator. That's what I need. I need a translator. I'm like, what did she just say? Can someone translate it from English to English for me or something? I don't know. Maybe it's a me problem. Maybe this is my fault. Maybe I'm just not able to understand the wit and wisdom and complexity that is Kamala Harris, but I need a translator. What is she saying? Please make it, I don't understand. Everything you say just is in one ear and out the other. It's just like a a song that passes through. It's transient. It's transient. There's no substance to it. It is just a wave that is moving, that has no foundation and no substance to it. It's transient. And once it's gone, it's gone. There's nothing left. Holy shit.
Feeling it. Groceries are 25% higher than when you took office. And people are blaming you and Joe Biden for that. Are they wrong?
So you are correct that under our leadership, the United States of America has recovered and is stronger than any other so-called developed nation in the world, in particular after the crisis that was the pandemic. And understand, we came into office facing a disaster in large part because of the mismanagement of the former president, Donald Trump, where the economy was in a slump. People were dying by the hundreds. It was a real crisis. But because of our approach and our work, we now have historic low unemployment in America among all groups of people. We now have an economy that is thriving by all macroeconomic measures. We have recovered in a way that we have created almost 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. We have created over 16 million new jobs as a whole. And to your point, prices are still too high. And I know that, and we need to deal with it, which is why part of my plan, you mentioned groceries. Part of my plan is what we must do to bring down the price of groceries. I'm taking on an issue I've taken on before as Attorney General, the issue of price gouging, which is not all, but some corporations and businesses that take advantage of a crisis and jack prices up, making the cost of groceries and other everyday essentials too expensive for the American people. I'm taking on the issue of housing. It's a big issue in our country. It's too expensive. There were generations before us that believed they could achieve the American dream, which included home ownership. Now I travel our country. I talk to young people every day. And they are so concerned they'll never be able to afford to buy a home or even start a family because of the cost of housing. So part of my plan is to put the resources into partnering with builders and developers to create incentives for them to build 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. And my plan includes giving first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance so they can just get their foot in the door.
Well, let's talk about that. You want to expand the child tax credit.
Yes, I do.
You want to give tax breaks to first-time home buyers.
Yes.
And people starting small businesses.
Correct.
But it is estimated by the Nonpartisan Committee for Responsible Federal Budget that your economic plan would add $3 trillion to the federal deficit over the next decade. How are you going to pay for that?
Okay, so the other economists that have reviewed my plan versus my opponent, because this is an election and there are two choices. Everyone from Goldman Sachs to Moody's to 16 Nobel laureates. So on the first point, comparing my economic plan to Donald Trump's economic plan, they have reviewed it and determined that my economic plan would strengthen America's economy, his would weaken it. 16 Nobel laureates, Moody's, others, have determined after reviewing what Donald Trump is proposing that he would induce inflation, increase inflation, and bring about a recession by the middle of next year.
But
my plan, Bill, if you don't mind, my plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class, and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes.
The rich already pay their fair share in taxes. They pay like 40 times their fair share in taxes. They way overpay their share of taxes by proportion. But soak the rich. Soak the rich. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Let's just soak the rich. That's definitely going to work.
Listen, again, my opponent, when he was president, issued a tax cut for people like himself, billionaires and the biggest corporations. My perspective is everybody needs to pay their fair share. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. And I plan on making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses. Their constituents are middle-class, hardworking folk who know that it is not right that hardworking people are paying a higher tax rate than the richest people who can afford to pay their fair share. So that's how we deal with it. But understand also that this is, yes, it is about how we pay for what we're doing, but understand it doesn't end there. My plan is actually about strengthening America's economy, not just netting zero. My plan is about doing what we can do for small businesses and startups. Right now, the tax deduction bill for a startup, $5,000. In 2024, nary a person going to be able to start a small business with $5,000. So I'm going to extend it to $50,000. My plan is about what we need to do to, yes, expand the child tax credit, because for young families, for the first year of their child's life, $6,000 allows them to buy a crib, a car seat, and just be able to not just get by, but get ahead for that most critical stage of their child's development. We all benefit from that. We all benefit from that.
I understand, but that sounds great. It does. It all sounds good, but the reality is these tax cuts have been in place for years.
They're about to expire.
Yes, and Congress has shown no inclination to move in your direction.
I disagree with you. There are plenty of leaders in Congress who understand and know that the Trump tax cuts blew up our federal deficit and care about the deficit in a way that they know. We must address it by making sure that our tax policy reflects fairness, and again, understand none of us, and certainly I cannot afford to be myopic in terms of how I think about strengthening America's economy. And that has to include where are we investing our resources in a way that we maximize the return on the investment. Let me tell you something. I am a devout public servant, you know that. I am also a capitalist. And I know the limitations of government. Part of the work I've always done and the work I will do as president includes engaging the private sector to join in what we can do, whether it be, again, tax incentives for builders or developers, or what we need to do to increase the work I've already done to get some of our biggest finance houses and corporations to invest in community banks to increase access to capital for small businesses.
So
all
if-
of this work must be done, but we have to have a holistic approach that is comprehensive.
I guess what I was asking, if all of this makes so much sense, why has this not been done? You're dealing with a Congress that is divided, that many are in opposition to not only you but your policies. So how are you going to make this
Bill,
come true?
if I approached my life as though, well, it's never been done before, therefore it cannot be done, I wouldn't be sitting here in this interview with you. That's the truth.
Let me see if I get the face right. Hold on. I can do it. That's the best I can do. Can you imagine if I had to listen to this woman for another 4 years as president? Can you imagine if I had to? Could you imagine if, not that it would ever happen, not that she would ever do it. Like Trump has been giving basically a press conference every day personally, like maybe more than one. Could you imagine if she was president and she was giving a press conference every day like Trump is? I mean, she never would, but just go into your mind's eye and just imagine for a moment. We live in a world where she's president and she's decided she's going to give like a press conference every day herself on all the things that she's doing. Okay. Yeah, that could have been our world. That could have been our world. That's exciting and fun.
But I do believe that we have to have leadership in our country as we turn the page on all of these sadly powerful forces that have been trying to divide us. We have to turn the page on that and chart a new way forward that is driven by building consensus and building common ground. Listen, you look at my campaign. I am supported by over 200 former members of Mitt Romney, John McCain, both President Bush, and even former President Trump's teams. I have the support of people Republicans who understand what is at stake in this election, be it as it relates to our democracy and our most fundamental.
You know, right now, I'm just like thinking, the thought that went through my head right that second is this was posted by the FCC, which of course is Donald Trump administration. So Donald Trump posted this interview. I can't decide whether to praise him or bury him. This is your fault, Donald. This is your fault we are where we are.
Principles, and I do believe based on a collective understanding we have that America's politics has to get back to the place of encouraging healthy debate, but not division for the sake of division.
Just a couple more economic questions here.
Sure.
Great.
Donald Trump says that tariffs,
Emotional damage.
well, that would be the solution to all of our economic woes. You criticize his plan for tariffs, yet the Biden-Harris administration has left many of the Trump-era tariffs in place, especially when it regards China. And President Biden has, in fact, expanded some of those tariffs. Would you continue the Trump-era tariffs if you're elected?
So part of the real problem that economists and others have pointed out about Trump's approach in this election, he is advocating what is at least a 20% tariff across the board on everyday necessities and goods, which economists have estimated will cost the average American family more than almost $4,000 a year, more than what they're already paying for everyday
you've got tariffs.
goods. But let me get to my point. On everyday goods, so a across the board blanket policy on tariffs for everyday goods and necessities. Tariff policy we cannot afford to have. That is just a blind policy without looking at what we are talking about and what will it induce, what will it incentivize. On the point about China, look, America has to win the competition for the 21st century as it relates to China. And we need to have policy that includes investing in America, investing in American workers, investing in American manufacturing, investing in American supply chain. And that is, I believe, smart and important policy, not only for the sake of our security, but also our prosperity.
So let's move on to immigration. You recently visited the southern border and embraced President Biden's recent crackdown on asylum seekers. And that crackdown produced an almost immediate and dramatic decrease in the number of border crossings. And you said you would take it even further. if that's the right answer now, why didn't your administration take those steps in 2021?
So we came into office and almost hours, Bill, after our inauguration, the first bill we proposed to Congress was to fix our broken immigration system.
It was a shit bill.
Knowing that if you
It
want
was an absolute
to
shit bill.
actually fix it, we need Congress to act. It was not taken up.
No, it was a shit bill.
Fast forward to a moment when a bipartisan group of members of the United States Senate, including one of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, got together, came up with a border security bill, which I support. Well, guess what happened? Donald Trump got word that this bill was afoot and could be passed, knowing that it could fix part of the problem. And he wants to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. So he told his buddies in Congress.
The bill basically granted amnesty. It was basically an amnesty bill. It was an absolute shit bill. It basically permanently opened the border and allowed, like, I forget what the number was. It's some number. I want to say 500,000, but it's been a long time since I read it. But like, it's like, oh, we're going to allow 500,000 illegal immigrants every year. Like that's our target. It was in the bill, and basically grants amnesty for everyone that's here. It was an absolute shit bill.
Congress, kill the bill. Don't let it move forward.
5,000 a day. Yeah, 5,000 a day. So 5,000 times 356. How many days? 365 days in a year. So what's 5,000 times 300? Yeah, so it's like, well, 50,000, 500,000. Yeah, because it's 5,000. Then times 10 would be 50,000. Times 100 is 500,000. Times 3 would be 1.5 million. 1.5 million. Great. That's great.
I've been covering the border for years. And so I know this is not a problem that started with your administration.
Correct.
But there was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled.
I'd like to take note, by the way, that the Trump administration seems to have gotten illegal immigration down to a pretty insubstantial crawl. Seems like illegal immigration has kind of stopped at the border. It's down like 98%. I wonder why. It's amazing.
From the last year of President Trump, was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies as much as you did in 2021?
So regionally and actually globally, we have seen this as an issue. And America's obviously not immune from this issue. But the focus has to be, to your point, you've been covering it for years, it's a long-standing problem. And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions, which have not been picked up. And then when there was a border security bill, my opponent decided to run on the problem instead of fixing the problem. And understand what that bill would have done. That border security bill would have put 1,500 more agents at the border, which is why the Border Patrol Union supported it. It would have put more resources into stemming the flow of fentanyl.
But that was
which is
just
a
this past
scourge.
year. That was just this past year. What I was asking was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem. Okay?
But the numbers did quadruple
And the
under
numbers
your
today,
watch.
because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
But should you have done that?
We
Should
have
you
cut
have
the
done
flow
that?
of fentanyl by half, but we need Congress to be able to act.
No, you don't. See, your own answer belies you, right? how were you able, even assuming that what you're saying is true, let's just like work through it through its own logic, okay? Like, let's just live for a moment in Kamala Harris logic world and just accept the premise, okay? The premise is we reduced immigration by half. Or, yeah, we reduced fentanyl by half. But then in the very next sentence, what does she say? We need Congress. Well, clearly you don't. Clearly you don't need Congress because you just said we were able to reduce it by half. Did Congress pass a new bill? Obviously they didn't. Congress didn't pass a new bill. So how were you able to reduce it by half? Obviously you didn't need Congress. So it's bullshit. It's bullshit. You simply made the decision to do it because you were getting close to the election, which you could have done the entire time. As Trump has shown that, like he did before, he was able to do this just by doing it. He's not creating new law. He's just enforcing the law that's on the books. Like he doesn't need to create new law. He just needs to enforce the law that's there. When you cross the border illegally, it's a crime. You know, and we're going to deport you because you're here illegally. All you have to do is make the decision to actually do, all you have to do is make the decision to faithfully execute the law. And you just said that you made the decision to do it, but then you say that you need Congress. You clearly don't. Jesus Christ.
Actually fix the problem. I was just at the border. I'm talking with...
Bullshit. Kamala Harris went to the border? When did that happen? Kamala Harris went to the border? What, for the first time ever? After being appointed border czar, like in 6 months before she went to the border for the first, when did that happen? She finally figured out where the border is? She finally figured out where it is? Oh, she finally looked at a map? Wow.
These incredible men and women who are working around the clock, because again, they don't have the resources they need. We need an act of Congress who carries the purse to do it. Donald Trump told them don't act. I talked with the Border Patrol agents, some of the leaders. Part of the issue that they identified is we need more asylum judges. We need more processing of people who are coming to our border, and the resources aren't there. You know how those resources commensurate with the need get dedicated? Congress has to act.
But I guess my question is, it's a pretty simple one.
Thank you, Donna, for the $49.99. She went to El Paso. El Paso isn't on the border. She's counting El Paso as being the border? Jesus Christ. Thank you, Donna, for the $49.99. That's very nice.
If this is the right answer now, what you tried to do with the bipartisan bill.
And what we tried to do
spring.
on day one, Bill, and what we tried to do on day one, when we came in, first order of business before we
Give it a chance to read some of these super chats because you guys are being very generous today. $20 from Sliding Edge. I'd just like to take note. Kurt Uncivil's been unburdened by what has been, being a dumpster fire of an administration. Harris is hoping to swap with Newsom, both terrible. Thank you, Donna, for the $49.99. To Tortiga Chick, K Bean, and Sliding Edge. Philip for $4.99 said, why does she sound like every question is an attack when the interviewer and questions are handpicked? Good question, Philip. Donna gave $19.99. Philip said, all the Queen's horses and all the Queen's men couldn't properly edit an answer again. I'm with you guys, man. This is all just disaster fuel. Thank you for your super chats. I had a really bad day, incidentally. I had $300 of unexpected expense. That really bummed me out. So I really appreciate your super chat because I kind of could use the funds at the moment. So I do appreciate it, and thank you very much. El Paso's on the border.
We did the Inflation Reduction Act, before we did, successfully, by the way, without one Republican vote, before we did the bipartisan infrastructure bill, before we passed the first meaningful piece of legislation to deal with gun violence in America in 30 years, the first thing we did.
I guess it is.
A comprehensive solution.
Fair point.
Pathway for
Fair point.
citizenship and for people to earn it and to deal with what we need to do to put.
All right, El Paso's on the border. I retract my snark. I thought it was further north for some reason. I retract my snark. So that's my fault. I had my geography wrong. My bad. So she went to El Paso once. Exciting.
More resources to ensure that we are able to heighten our level of security at the border.
So we do need to move on because our time is short, but I'm trying to understand how it is that with this emphasis on the border, the numbers of crossings quadrupled under the first 3 years of the Biden-Harris administration. How did that happen?
There are a variety of factors that relate to what we have seen globally and what we are not immune from at our own border in terms of what we have seen in terms of surge of immigration and irregular migration. And there are solutions at hand, but we've got to have leaders who are solution-oriented,
Is that over there?
which we've been and are, and I am going forward, instead of leaders who want to make it a problem they can run on.
It's talking about that person you're mentioning right now. You have accused Donald Trump of using racist tropes when it comes to Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio.
Oh, I'm sorry. I blanked out. I was looking at a map and I didn't realize you were looking at my face the entire time. I'm sorry. That, again, is my fault. That's 2 mistakes in a row. I mistook where El Paso was on a map, and I deprived you of Kamala Harris FaceTime. I'm so sorry, but that problem is easily fixed. I'll just go back 2 minutes in time, and that way you won't have to miss any Kamala Harris FaceTime. I apologize. No problem.
My question is, it's a pretty simple one. If this is the right answer now, what you tried to do with the bipartisan bill.
And what we tried
this
to do
spring.
on day one, Bill, and what we tried to do on day one, when we came in, first order of business before we did the Inflation Reduction Act, before we did, successfully, by the way, without one Republican vote, before we did the bipartisan infrastructure bill, before we passed the first meaningful piece of legislation to deal with gun violence in America in 30 years, the first thing we did was to offer a comprehensive solution to create a pathway for citizenship and for people to earn it, and to deal with what we need to do to put more resources to ensure that we are able to heighten our level of security at the border.
So we do need to move on because our time is short, but I'm trying to understand how it is that with this emphasis on the border, the numbers of crossings quadrupled under the first 3 years of the Biden-Harris administration. How did that happen?
There are a variety of factors that relate to what we have seen globally and what we are not immune from at our own border in terms of what we have seen in terms of surge of immigration and irregular migration. And there are solutions at hand, but we've got to have leaders who are solution-oriented, which we've been and are, and I am going forward, instead of leaders who want to make it a problem they can run on.
It's talking about that.
Boy, oh boy, I'm really glad that we rewound the video so we could watch that again. I'm so glad we rewound that again. Maybe we should rewind it again. I mean, having just seen it once, I really feel like maybe we could see it again. Or maybe, I just don't feel like we've given Kamala Harris enough credit. Maybe we should just rewind the 35 minutes of interview we've watched so far. We could go all the way back to the very beginning and make sure to really understand her words for the full depth that's available. We could just go back 35 minutes. That'd be good. If you all in chat don't behave, you know what's next. I'll do it.
Person you're mentioning right now, you have accused Donald Trump of using racist tropes when it comes to Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, when it comes to birtherism, when it comes to Charlottesville. In fact, you have called him a racist and divisive. Yet Donald Trump has the support of millions and millions of Americans. How do you explain that?
So let's just break down what you just talked about and talk about it in the context of the words that Donald Trump has spoken and the actions he has taken, and whether that is reflective of who we are as Americans, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. We have a former president who wants to be president again, who has a bouquet of microphones in front of him, who has said the most vile lies about a group of legal immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. And if I may, Bill, let me just say something. You know, from the time I was a prosecutor to attorney general to now vice president, I learned very early in my career, when the voters bestow on you the authority to have these positions, you must be very thoughtful about how you use that microphone in front of you. And, you know, when I was attorney general, the words I spoke could move markets. So the idea that the former president, who again is running to be president, would use that microphone in a way that is about vilifying and demeaning a whole population of people. You know what has happened because of that? One day when this happened was a school day, picture day for an elementary school. Picture day. You know what picture day is for our children? They get excited the night before. We put out the clothes they're going to wear. They go to school making sure their faces are clean and their hair is done. And they go to school for picture day. And you know what happened to these children? They had to evacuate that day because of the fear of the threats that were being issued in Springfield because of the words of Donald Trump. So I say that I'm glad you are pointing these comments out that he has made that have resulted in a response by most reasonable people to say it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
So you have said you want to be the president of all the people.
Yes.
With so many people supporting Donald Trump, a man you have called a racist, how do you bridge that seemingly unbridgeable gap?
I believe that the people of America want a leader who's not trying to divide us.
Deep.
And demean. I believe that the American people recognize that the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, it's based on who you lift up. And I have traveled around our country, and I've met with people of every background and walk of life, including people who have supported Donald Trump in the past, who say to me they're ready to turn the page, they're exhausted with what he has been doing and that approach, and they want to chart a new way forward for our country.
So, was democracy best served by President Biden stepping down and basically handing you a nomination? You didn't have to go through a primary process. You didn't have to fight off other contenders. That's not really the way our system was intended to work.
So President Biden made a decision that I think history is going to show is rare among leaders, which was to put country before self.
Excuse me.
And I am proud to have earned the support of the vast majority of delegates and to have been elected the Democratic nominee to be Vice President of the United States. I am honored to have received the support and endorsement of over 200 Republicans who served in the last 3 Republican presidential administrations. I am proud to have earned the support of leaders of our national security community. I am proud to have received the endorsement of leaders around this country from every background and walk of life to fight in this election over the next month for our democracy and the principles upon which it stands. What is at stake in this election? You mentioned our democracy, is whether we are a nation that abides by and respects the rule of law, and that we have a president who is the champion of following and respecting and
Look, I know I take the piss. I know I take the piss, but what is she saying? What is she saying? I mean, what's she talking about? Where was the question?
for our democracy. I'm proud to have earned the support of leaders of our national security community. I am proud to have received the endorsement of leaders around this country from every background and walk of life to fight in this election over the next month for our democracy and the principles upon which it stands. What is at stake in this election? You mentioned our democracy, is whether we are a nation that abides by and respects the rule of law, and that we have a president who is the champion of following and respecting and upholding rule of law.
But I would think that-
Not someone who has been convicted of 34 felonies, who tried to overturn the free and fair election, which was the will of the people on January 6th. Not someone who has said he would be a dictator on day one. Not someone who has said, and these are his words, he would terminate the Constitution of the United States of America.
But I think this truncated process is why people think or say they don't really know who you are.
Well, Bill, there's no question. Look, I've been in this race for 70 days. And there is work to be done. It is, without any question, a short period of time. There's no question about that, which is why I'm traveling around our country. As I said earlier, I mean, you've seen me. I'm from one state to the next to the next. I don't know how many states I've been in this last week alone. Literally, I've lost count. So it is my responsibility to earn the vote. And I'm going to work to do that.
3/4 of the American voters, or likely voters, say that they are concerned about the possibility of election-related violence. And with 2 assassination attempts against former President Trump, the country seems near a boiling point. What can you do? What should you do to lower the temperature?
Well, first, let's start with those attempts, assassination attempts on the former president. I was deeply disturbed, shocked, and shaken, frankly, when they happened. I called the former president to check on him. But it is really important that all of us speak loudly, regardless of who we're voting for, to say our differences have to be settled at the ballot box and not through violence. We cannot lose our soul in terms of who we are as Americans by resorting to violence to settle our differences, much less to make a decision about who's going to be the next president of the United States.
I don't know if it was that I was never fair in the first place. I don't know if it's that I've just become too jaded. I don't know if it's just that I've become like too resolved in my opinion. Am I biased? Like, but I'm just having the hardest time having any sort of positive reaction to anything she's saying. It's like, it's just so thin. It's thin. It is it's a carny. It's cliches. It's fortune cookies. There's no understanding behind it. There's no depth to it. It's empty. It's so, you know, I mean, I'm listening to her and I'm like, oh my God. I just can't find anything to like about her. She is not charismatic. She's not knowledgeable. She is superficial. She is an empty shell. And it's like, how did, you know, it's one of those things where, did anyone else see the clips from the DNC that happened recently? I never covered it on my channel because I was looking for like all the clips so that I could put them together, and I couldn't really find them in any one place. But did anyone else see the clips from the DNC that just happened like 2 days ago, 3 days ago? Did anyone see those clips where they just like elected their new chair and their new vice chair? It happened like 2 days ago. Did anyone see that? Because it's like, I'm watching the DNC. I'm watching some of these clips from the DNC, and I'm like, my God, what the hell? What the hell are we going? What the hell is going on? Like, how are we seeing the world so differently? How are we seeing the world so differently between me and the DNC? How are we this far apart? I'm watching things from the DNC, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Maybe when this interview is over, for those of you who want bonus cringe time, I'll go to X and I'll see if I can find some of the clips from the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, where they're electing their new chair and their new vice chair. Maybe when this is over and we want additional cringe time because you just didn't get enough the first time, we can watch some of those clips, and we can watch how the Democratic National Party wants to portray themselves at their official convention. Oh my God.
Hit on some more.
However cringy you think it is, you're not there. You're whatever level of cringe is in your mind, you are underestimating it.
Foreign policy.
There's a bug in here.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
Well, there are different reasons that we should be thoughtful about each. Most recently, I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. And look, I mean, Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? And what we saw in terms of just this attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles, what we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest
Achieves the ability to be a nuclear power? I'm asking a question.
priorities.
So if you
And
have
that must
proof that
be-
Iran is building a nuclear weapon, would you take military action?
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals at this moment.
What about China? China is strongly asserting its dominance, its control of the South China Sea, especially around
Yeah.
the Philippines. What is the U.S. responsibility for keeping China from simply taking over the South China Sea?
Well, I have actually worked very closely with the leaders in the Philippines on just this very issue, and including the work that we are doing in terms of coordination between our military and training, and what needs to happen in terms of protecting the freedom of the South China Sea. China, first of all, we must win the competition for the 21st century with China. We must be able to compete and win. We should not seek conflict, but we have to understand that there are parameters in which we must operate that include ensuring, for example, that we protect American business interests.
So say if
What
China
we-
attacks Taiwan, would we use military force to support Taiwan?
Bill, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals, but listen, we need to make sure that we maintain a one China policy, but that includes supporting Taiwan's ability to defend itself, including what we need to do to ensure the freedom of the Taiwan Strait. But on the issue of China, we also, again, we cannot afford to have foreign policy that is myopic. We must be able to also, as it relates to China, continue to do the work that we have begun to deal with the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. That's a real issue. Again, you talk to families around our country who on a constant, sadly, regular basis, meet parents and family members of people who have died from fentanyl, young people who have died from fentanyl. Are we going to stop trying to stem the flow of fentanyl? And we have to deal with that and understand China's role in that and our ability to work with China to stop that flow, which we have begun to do and I'm going to continue to do. We need to make sure we have open lines of communication with China, in particular, military to military. So these issues are all, they're multifaceted.
So what about Russia and Ukraine? What does the end of the war, what does success look like in ending the war in Ukraine?
There will be no success in ending that war without Ukraine and the UN Charter participating in what that success looks like. That being said, America must stand firm in being a leader in defending international rules and norms that include one of the most important, which is the critical nature and importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Would you
What?
meet with President Vladimir Putin to negotiate a solution to the war in Ukraine?
Not bilaterally without Ukraine, no. Ukraine must have a say in the future of Ukraine.
Ukraine must have a say in the future of Ukraine. Bold.
How about, as president, would you support the effort to expand NATO to include Ukraine?
Those are all issues that we will deal with if and when it arrives at that point. Right now, we are supporting Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russia's unprovoked aggression and doing what we can to continue to build and strengthen.
I'm having a real hard time imagining her in a conversation with Putin and it going well for us. Yeah.
Strengthen the alliance around the support for Ukraine's right to be an independent nation, free from having its borders forcefully taken by Russia. And we are going to continue to work closely with our NATO allies to continue to reinforce America's alliance in the context of NATO. Again, in this election, there's a real difference between me and the former president. I believe in reinforcing the strength of NATO, understanding, again, it is the greatest military alliance the world has ever known. Donald Trump would pull us out of NATO. Donald Trump, if he were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. Let's be clear about that. He talks about, oh, he can end it on day one. You know what that is? It's about surrender. Achieving peace and an end to this war is not synonymous with surrender. Those two things are not the same.
It's a hard left turn here, but you recently surprised people when you said that you are a gun owner. And then if someone came into your
That was
house,
not the first time
They would
I've
get
talked
shot.
about it. That's not the first time I've talked about it, but it's, I mean, I don't talk about it a lot, but
so what kind of gun do you own, and when and why did you get it?
I have a Glock, and I've had it for quite some time.
What caliber?
And
What model?
I mean, look, Bill, my background is in law enforcement, and so there you go.
Have you ever fired it?
Yes, of course I have. At a shooting range, yes, of course I have. And to just give you more detail, and I store it in a lockbox, and it is safely stored, and as any responsible gun owner does.
I'm getting the countdown here, but one last thing. You are sitting here with us. The Trump campaign canceled an interview that they had agreed to participate in this broadcast. What do you make of that?
Listen, I think that, look, I think that your viewers have options in terms of how they're going to hear from him. And I invite them to watch what he says at his rallies. If he is not going to give your viewers the ability to have a meaningful, thoughtful conversation, question and answer with you, then watch his rallies. And what you're going to hear are comments about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. You're going to hear conversations suggesting that human beings are eating their pets. You're going to hear conversations that are about himself and all of his personal grievances. Words that are intended to divide our country is what you will hear. And what you will not hear is anything about you, the listener. You will not hear a plan about how he's going to make your life better. You will not hear a plan about how he's going to strengthen the middle class. You will not hear about how he is going to strengthen small businesses. You will not hear about how he's going to try to bring the country together, find common ground. And Bill, that is why I believe in my soul and heart the American people are ready to turn the page.
You have said that the country is exhausted
Yes.
with the rhetoric and the finger pointing. How about you? Are you exhausted?
I'll be exhausted on November 6th. Not now. Not now. Too much to do. Too much to do.
Madam Vice President, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Good to be with you.
Oh, can we just get just a little bit of a question, please, so I can get it over the shoulder shot?
Yeah.
1 second, just 1 second. Okay, thank you.
You need me talking?
Yes, sir.
Well, we were talking about how you're going to pay for it, and I mean, I truly do mean it. Your plans are logical, make logical sense. The way Washington works is not logical. So how are you going to convince a divided Congress that what you say, your plans, are something that they should all agree to and provide to the American people when they've shown no inclination to do that up to this point?
Is that what you needed?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. 30 seconds of silence, please, for John.
Emotional damage.
Cameron,
Well, that was exciting. To round out our time together, As previously alerted, we do have one other interview. You may not have to hear from Kamala Harris. You may have to hear from someone else, though. I'll let you decide which of these things is worse. We got 3.5 minutes to go. Let's do it.
Hello again. Hello again. Is this, I think we're good? Okay. Well, thank you both for talking to us. Really appreciate it. 4 years ago, if someone had told you that you would be campaigning with Liz Cheney, what would you have said to them?
That'd be great. That's really diplomatic.
Ms. Cheney, there are a whole host of things on which you do not agree with the Vice President. And you endorse him. What does that say about the moment we're in?
Look, I think it says a lot about who we are as a country and about the stakes of this election. And we have the power to stop the toxic vitriol and to stop the kind of politics we've been living through. And we have the duty to defend the Constitution. And so I'm very proud to be endorsing and supporting the Vice President in this race. It really matters.
Former President Trump has vowed to prosecute you and you, Madam Vice President, and many other people he considers to be opponents. Do you consider that to be bluster, or do you take that threat seriously?
Well, the fact of it is further evidence of why he is unfit to be president of the United States. We have a democracy that we must defend, and in a democracy, there will be political disagreements, there will be discourse, and it should not subject one to incarceration. And the idea that he, as he has said repeatedly, would weaponize law enforcement, the Department of Justice against political enemies is so directly against who we are as a nation and what we stand for. And it's just further evidence of the fact that he doesn't understand the importance of obeying and protecting and defending the Constitution of the United States and all of the principles on which it was founded.
Ms. Cheney?
Yeah, look, the Vice President is absolutely right. Every time Donald Trump says something about that, something like that, every time he suggests, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs should be hanged for treason, for example, it's a reminder to the American people that he's unfit for office, and that's not who we are as Americans. We're a good nation, in addition to being a great nation, and a president who would do what Donald Trump did and who would be as petty and vindictive and cruel as he is not somebody who should ever hold office again.
Would you ever have thought that you'd be campaigning with Kamala Harris?
I hope that if you had said to me 4 years ago, our Constitution is going to be under threat and it's going to be crucial for the parties to come together and to support Vice President Harris because she'll defend the rule of law, I know I would have said that's exactly what I'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that concludes the 60-minute portion of our time together. So now we know what 60 Minutes was trying to hide all this time. That was exciting, painful, disturbing, and everything else. Okay. Now to round out our time together, we're going to see if we can find some videos from the recent meeting of the Democratic National Committee, wherein the Democratic National Committee was voting for its new members. And we're going to cover some of this stuff. So this is going to be exciting. This is going to be even more cringe. So the Democratic National Committee recently met to determine their new chair and vice chair. We're going to watch some clips from their meeting of the Democratic National Committee. that happened on February 1st. So this just happened. This is exciting. Okay, hold on. Again, not a skit. It actually happened.
Rules specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer, the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 offices must be gender balanced. With the results of the previous 4 elections, our elected officers are currently 2 male and 2 female. In order to be gender balanced, we must elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. So again, this is what we have to do for this vice chair race. We have to elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. To ensure our process accounts for male, female, and non-binary candidates, we conferred with our RBC co-chair, our LGBT caucus co-chair, and others to ensure that the process is inclusive and meets the gender balance requirements in our rules. To do this, our process will be slightly different than the one outlined to you earlier this week, but I hope you will see that in practice it is simple and transparent. The order of balloting is designed to ensure equal access to the ballot, regardless of gender identity. As we must elect a candidate of any gender as well as 1 male and 1 female vice chair, we will first ask members to elect a candidate of any gender on the first ballot. Any candidate, male, female, and non-binary, can be elected on that ballot. After a candidate is elected on the first ballot, we'll have 1 officer of the 3. So then we will know which position is filled of the 1 male, 1 female, and 1 vice chair of any gender. Our second ballot would also be for a candidate of any gender. Then our third ballot will be the 3rd position that is remaining based on the 2 results. Either a male candidate if a candidate that is not male has not been elected, or a female candidate if a female has not been elected.
And we'll begin with the opening statements. Each candidate will have 30 seconds, and we'll start with Dr. Quintessa Hathaway.
Good evening, everyone. It is my desire to be the next DNC chair, and I just want to give you all a little bit of something that's been on my heart here over the last couple of days. You fight on, you fight on. You fight on, you fight on. When your government is doing you wrong, you fight on, oh, you fight on.
Hello, Democrats. Hey, I am speaking. And I would love your attention. There is a black woman at this podium, and I deserve your attention like the 11 people who went before me. Yes, I am speaking.
Good evening, Democrats. Look up here. 3 strong black women standing before you. 3 black women who, rather than just grabbing a chair, ran for chair.
Te quiero mucho, Papa. Gracias por todo. My name is Artie Blanco, Freddie Blanco's daughter. Vote for me for vice chair.
Look at this room, y'all. Truly take it in. This is the Democratic Party. We are strong.
This is the Democratic Party.
Yes, when we stand together.
We are in a time in this country when our democracy and our rights are under attack. We're at a time where black and brown people, women, and other minorities are being blamed for everything that's wrong with this country.
So let's fight together for a stronger and more inclusive Democratic Party. Good afternoon, DNC! Let me say something. Over the last several days, we've seen what happens when we have the wrong people in powerful places. And so today, I ask for your support in electing me as your DNC vice chair, because in a time of crisis, leadership matters. My people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We are sick and tired of being the last one hired and the first one fired. We are sick and tired of the...
And I've spent the last 15 years fighting for the American people, all 340 million of them.
Work to do to organize, show up, and win. And that is why I'm asking the people who have stood with me in this ride, because you know the work that I do to protect the vote.
In this round, so I'm going to, I have a show of hands. How many of you believe that racism and misogyny played a role in Vice President Harris's defeat? Okay. So that's good. You all pass. In this round, so
This is the new leader of the DNC. This is the new head of the Democratic National Committee. This is the guy in charge of the Democratic Party. This guy. This is the guy who won the race. Here's a little thing he'd like to share with you. Great. Thanks. It's great. That's fantastic. Here is your new vice chair. Here's your new vice chair. Hogg. He got shot. He was at the school shooting. He is giving a speech at March for Our Lives, and he is holding in his hand a dildo. That is your new vice chair of the DNC. He's second in command of the Democratic Party. That guy. Great. This is pretty funny.
My name is Troy Blackwell. I know that I'm a new face to many of you, but I'm a proud Afro-Latino from the South Bronx, New York. I got into this work because at the age of 18, unfortunately, I was the victim of a hate crime. Today, I stand before you as one of the first non-binary candidates to run in the DNC's 177-year history. I'm proud to be the only Afro-Latino in this race. I'm asking you to take a chance on someone like me, a proud non-binary Afro-Latino from the South Bronx.
The final tally of votes, Troy Blackwell, 0.
He got no votes. He got no votes. It's very, very sad. The transgender Democrat Afro-Latino whatever guy got no votes. That's very, very disappointing.
Here at home. Okay.
Party, but the other, but
I guess my quick. Can you? Okay. Hello. Excuse me. Election cycle. You do not. These particular.
And Democrats are still taking money from the arsonists.
Would you have done anything differently? I'm sorry. Everyone.
Hey, I am speaking, and I would love your attention. There is a black woman at this podium, and I deserve your attention.
Here at home.
So yeah, the Democratic National Committee meeting went super, super well.
Something that's been on my heart here over the last.
I don't know that we need to hear from him sing again. I think we got the vote the thing the first time.
Hey, I am speaking.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's going on. I think those are all the clips from the Democratic National Committee. So you have new leadership of the Democratic National Committee. I know you're super excited. Yeah, I think that's all the things. Yeah, I think those were all the clips. And then, once again, this is the new head of your Democratic Party. This is the new head of the Democratic Party, this guy. I think we're going to be okay, people. I think we're going to be okay. Oh, wait. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, that's
and play it on a loop back there.
Democracy looks like this.
Able to vote for
Next ballot. Nazi Nepo baby.
You are in this next ballot where you have 2 votes. As the chair has said, you may vote for 2 males, 2 females, 2 of any gender. Okay? Nope, you can't do that.
And what we not gonna do is stand around while they pull this bullshit that they trying to pull right now. This is why I'm not gonna be able to preach, because I probably won't be able to stop cussing.
You could vote for 1 of any gender, okay? Or no, non-binary gender, excuse me. It is late, okay?
Not one libertarian.
they got tripped up on their own rules relating to gender diversity and how many people have to be of what genders on the ballot. They got tripped up on their own gender diversity rules. So, you know, that's pretty interesting. But, you know, I think that's enough dilly-dallying around. We should really do the thing that we came here to do the stream for. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to watch this interview from 60 Minutes. It's about 57 minutes long. It's something I haven't seen before. So I think we'll just watch that and see if there's anything of value in that. So let me just load that up real fast, and we can watch this unedited video from 60 Minutes, and we'll watch that, and that'll be good.
Okay, and then that mold is at an all-time high today, which is the one thing I am allergic to.
Yeah.
Okay. Pollen is down.
Mold is up.
Mold is up. You know, I know that as a matter of fact, because I was watching
I'm not really going to do that to you. I'm not that much a bastard. But I had to tease you a little bit. I had to tease you a little bit. Gotcha. Oh man, oh Lord. Although of course we could watch the entire unedited video from the 60 Minutes side if we want to watch all of his, we want to watch it from the other camera angle. We still haven't watched the entire unedited video from the other camera angle because we switched over. Oh Lord. So I have to say, I don't fully understand completely why the Democratic Party and why I don't see eye to eye. I don't quite understand why we're so far apart. It's because it's like you want to steelman it, right? To some degree, you want to steelman it, and you want to understand, like, where are these people coming from? Like, you got to assume that some of them are in good faith and some of them actually believe what they're saying or something, right? It's like, you got to believe that there's some intelligent and smart people in there somewhere. And so you want to steelman and you want to understand where they're coming from. And it's just like you watch it and you watch these clips from the DNC and it's like, I don't understand how we're so far apart. I just don't get it. I don't understand how we're so far apart. It's like, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? Or what's going on? I mean, Orange Man bad. I mean, I understand that. But, for my money, most of the things that Trump has done has pleased me. And many of the things he's done seem to be well within his powers, although some are questionable to be sure. But, it's like, I just don't know where we don't see eye to eye. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't really get it. Yeah. So I don't know. What else can we talk about now that we've finished all that? I mean, we did make it through the entire 60-minute interview somehow. We made it through the entire thing. If you haven't hit the like button, by the way, now would be a good time. If you don't hit the like button, I might play the video again. So, make sure to hit the like button. Super chat or else. Yeah. You were a Dem until 2016. Maturity helped you to see the lunacy. Yeah. Button hit. I'm smashing hard. Please don't. Yeah. Smash that like button, guys. You better believe it. Bondus is confirmed. Yeah. They're doing a pretty good job on confirming all the people. And Tulsi made it out of committee, didn't she? I think it was right on the edge, but she made it out of committee. So I think Tulsi will get confirmed, and RFK looks like he's going to get confirmed. So the only at least that seems that way based on what's happening right now. So the only person that really is in serious jeopardy, it seems to me, is the nominee for the Secretary of Labor, which a lot of Republicans don't like, the nominee for the Secretary of Labor, because that person was very strong pro-union and proposed some very, very strong pro-union. They were in favor of the PRO Act. I think it was literally called the PRO Act, which would have basically forced companies I forget the exact details, but it was an extremely pro labor piece of union. And of course, Department of Labor is the agency or department that administers labor law. So a lot of Republicans and conservatives had some strong points with her. So I think Secretary of Labor is the only one who's in the Cash. Yeah, Cash is still on the question. I think Cash will get nominated. I think Cash will get confirmed. I mean, the Attorney General just got confirmed. In fact, the Attorney General just got sworn in. So, yeah. So I think those are only things that are happening. When's the next floor vote for nominees? I'm not sure when the floor votes are. I assume that those are happening in the next couple days. Pam Bondi? That's cool. If she needs to hire somebody, I'm available. I'm willing to move back to DC. I'm willing to be some mid-level person at the department. Nice building at DOJ downtown. Fetterman voted for Bondi? Yeah, he did. Please do police videos like last night's stream. Sometimes. If there's any evidence that Biden was mentally incompetent, would that make any of his exec orders and pardons null and void? Almost certainly not. I don't see the courts getting into it because it strikes me as a political question. And if, he hasn't been removed from office, then I don't think that they would get into it. I don't see any court touching that with a 10-foot pole. If Biden was incompetent, that would be impeachment. Well, more the point, the 25th Amendment, his cabinet should have just removed him. And the fact they didn't is arguably a dereliction of duty. But what else is new when it comes to the party? What do I think of handing over Fauci to Putin? No. Fauci is an American, even if he is a bastard. And I would not favor doing that. No. The fact that he's been pardoned doesn't please me, but he is an American. And so, so be it. That's fine by me. Yeah, you don't hand over Americans. America should never hand over one of its own, ever. That's not something America does. It's not something any nation really should do. Fauci or anyone part of state crimes have to be resolved? Possibly, but it's unclear that that's even possible within the context of Fauci. Anything that you'd want to charge him for would almost certainly be related to his federal role. So I don't imagine that anything that you'd want to charge him for, the state could charge him for. I literally don't think any state has jurisdiction to charge him, because anything you'd want to charge him for would relate to his federal capacity, and you have federal supremacy doctrine. So I don't think that you can find a state level cause of action for anything that he did as in his official capacity. It's just too dangerous a proposition. I remember when the Democrats were trying to do that exact same thing, incidentally, for like Bush relating to 9/11, because they were unhappy with some of the orders that were signed, and they were trying to think of ways to go after some of those officials on the state level who signed off on, for example, enhanced interrogation, and they were trying to like prosecute people on the state level. It's like, no, you can't do that. You know, they have immunity for their federal role. The state can't prosecute them for their federal role. It's a supremacy clause issue. So yeah, I seriously doubt you're going to find any state that has jurisdiction. Some guy tried to jump the White House fence. Yeah, I saw that. Some guy tried to jump the White House fence. It was actually a pretty funny video. Give me a second and see if I can pull it up, because like you can see like everyone move, and it's just like it was just like it was funny to watch. Let me see if I can find the video, because it only lasted like a minute. It was very short. The guy tried to climb the White House fence. It lasted all of about a minute, 20 seconds tops, from time to top to bottom. So it was pretty interesting. Let me see if I can find it. He's still alive. He is still alive, although he wasn't going to be for very long. You can actually see, like, okay, here it is. All right, so this entire video is only a minute 50 seconds, which tells you a lot about what you need to know, right? Okay, so this is good. So this guy, first of all, I'm not sure what he's trying to do for his look. He's wearing all black, but it's in the middle of the day. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I appreciate that you're trying to do your ninja outfit thing, but it's not really working. We can see you. All right, so let's watch this video. So this guy, he crosses the fence. All right, he starts to cross the fence. Now watch the roof of the White House. Watch the roof of the White House. You see there on the left, you see the sniper just got up? You see the sniper on the left just got up? He's going to run across the roof of the White House? Yeah. Yeah. He's getting ready. He's getting into position. He's getting ready.
Watch the dogs come. Yeah, there's dogs. Look at that.
Ah, now the dogs are coming out. You see the dogs. Now the dogs are coming out. And already there's a police officer on the other side of the fence. The police officer's on the other side of the fence, ready to arrest him if he comes back down. So there's already a police officer there, so that's not going very well for him.
Dude.
You see the guys on the ground? The guys on the ground with the dogs? They're coming. They're coming. Yeah, they're moving.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, homeboy over there seems to be running. He seems to be having something in his arm. It appears to be some kind of rifle. Homeboy ain't playing.
Look at the dogs.
There's the doggies. There's the officers with the doggies. It's not going very well for homeboy here in his 50 seconds of exploration. He's not having a great time. You can't actually see him under my camera. I'm sorry. You can't actually see doggy. There's doggy. There's doggy on the bottom left. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was covered up. There's guy with doggy on the bottom left. Doggy's happy. Doggy's having a good time. There he is on the bottom left with doggy. Doggy friend is having a good day.
Boy, did we get here in the right spot.
The white van pulls up. Lol. There's the Secret Service police. Well, that response time was pretty good, right? So you had the sniper. You see the sniper? He's still there on the roof. You see him standing right at the flagpole. The sniper's there on the flagpole. Bottom left, you got the guy with the doggy. Bottom right, you got the guy with the assault rifle. You got 5 officers outside of him. You got the guy in the car. Things are not going well for our friend. He's not having a really good day right now.
Hey guys, this area is going to be closed. Start going either way.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, so things did not go well for the guy who tried to climb the White House fence. He didn't get very far. So the Secret Service is definitely on their game. They're definitely on their game. So homeboy over here gonna have a bad time. He's going to prison for a couple of years on that one. So yeah. Would I be this guy's lawyer? He has no case. It's clearly attempted. I mean, what kind of plea can I make? The whole thing is caught on camera. There's 18 different witnesses. What do you want me to do? Right? It's like, will I be your lawyer? Sure. There's nothing for me to do. It's very low pressure for me. What's your strategy? My strategy is mostly to sit here and watch you get your ass convicted. That's mostly my defense strategy. Is sitting here and watch and eating popcorn. That's mostly my defense lawyer strategy. The popcorn. Yeah. Insanity. Take a plea. Yeah. Take a plea if one is offered. I mean, they've got him for attempted entry to the White House. They've got him cold. Plus, anything else so they've got him for that. Plus, heaven forbid he had drugs on his person at the time. That would just be the icing on my parfait. He had an 8-ball in his pocket at the time. That'd be the best news, right? So maybe he was Hunter's Coke deliverer and forgot that Hunter wasn't there anymore. Maybe he was trying to make a Coke delivery. Who can say? But homeboy gonna have a bad time. Try to plead it down to disorderly. Yeah, the U.S. attorney is going to make my client their bitch. So, yeah. So that was pretty fun to watch. The Secret Service is like, really, really like amped up because of the obvious shooting attempts at them. So yeah. The beard looks good. Thank you. I'm glad you like the beard. And I got my hair cut today. I finally got my hair cut, so I got that cleaned up. What are my opinion on the judges who are getting internet famous? You mean the ones that were refusing Trump's orders or Trump's pardons? It's like they deserve to get their ass handed to them. Yeah, guilty plea. I mean, there's nothing for me to do. There's nothing for me to do as your lawyer. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I can get discovery, but it's only gonna. I'm like, they've got other videos and other things. They've got witnesses. They've got the camera footage. They've got everything they could possibly ever want. So, like, what do you want me to do? He didn't think it was the White House. He didn't know that he was entering the White House grounds. He was confused. I don't know, man. I don't know. Make sure he remains silent. Oh, it won't help. Yeah, I mean, he should invoke his right to remain silent. It's just not going to help very much. What do I think about the Matt Hoover case, CRS Firearms on YouTube? I don't know anything about that. I don't think I do. I'm not sure if I've heard anything about the Matt Hoover case. Let me Google that real fast and see if there's something there for us to talk about. Maybe we can react to it in real time. Let's see. Oh, is this an old case? This is an older case. This is the guy that was printing that stuff on that like business card that was the ATF went after him. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about the finer points of that case. He's still locked up? Yeah, that was the guy that was producing that stuff that the ATF said it was a machine gun. Yeah. He could say he was pen testing? Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know enough about the case to comment intelligently. I don't like to comment. Oh, by the way, I probably shouldn't be this sensitive about this, and this is probably a failing on my part. But like, I got really pissed because there were some people in the Karen Reed video that I did earlier who were making some bullshit, stupid comments, at least to me, and I'm like, I can't get any respect. It's like I can't get no respect. But I was pissed. So we'll just discuss this real fast because it was just interesting, at least to me, right? So Karen Reed was tried for murder in Maryland, and then there was a mistrial declared by the judge. But there's some open legal questions relating to that. One of which is relating to double jeopardy because the judge might have improperly dismissed the jury, and we don't really have time to get into it right now for the sake of the argument. I mean, you can watch my video if you want. I thought it was a pretty good video where I discussed this other case that came down that relates to a double jeopardy issue. So there's this other case that was decided by the Supreme Court of the state relating to double jeopardy, and I'm like, this case, to my mind, has a lot of similar aspects, you know, and this is a bit of a judgment call by a lawyer, right? This is a judgment call. It's like, how close is this case to this case, right? And so I'm like, oh, this case, to my mind, has a lot of similarities to the case of Karen Reed. So to my mind, in my judgment, they're relatively close cases, right? And I'm like, so maybe we can learn something about how the Supreme Court of the state is likely to read the Karen Reed situation by how they read this situation, because there's a similar fact pattern. It's a similar legal issue. It's like it's comparable. Is it 1-to-1? No, it's not 1-to-1. If it were 1-to-1, then, you know, obviously then we know the answer, but it's not 1-to-1. But it's like, you know, in my judgment, they're pretty comparable. And then like someone in comments basically is like, this guy simply says it's not the same thing at all. And I just simply respond by saying, well, that is fucking persuasively argued. Fuck me, lol. Because I'm like, I think they're similar. I think they're similar. I mean, there's differences, obviously. You're trying to make a comparison. But I'm like, obviously, I think they're close, or I think it's comparable. And then, like, I just get roasted some more in the chat, right? I get roasted some more in the chat. Like this other guy said, I've never seen an attorney miss by such a wide margin. The issue in Reed is not whether the jury should deliberate further, but whether the jury had actually reached two verdicts and were not given the opportunity to state that. What the fuck? On civils being obtuse, this is not even close to the same thing as Karen Reed. It's not the same thing as all. And if you don't know why, you must be ignorant of Karen Reed or of the law. It's like, no, I know both, right? And this guy's like, agree, Karen Reed is very different. The argument of Karen Reed is not about whether the judge should just send back to further deliberate. It's about whether the jury had reached a verdict on one of the charges, but no way to communicate. The judge never asked if they were hung. And I'm like, I know both very well, fuckface, right? It's like, I know both of these things very well. I watched the entire Karen Reed trial. You and I watched it together. We watched the entire trial. I've read every brief relating to Karen Reed. I've read every brief. I've read the Karen Reed's briefs. I've read the state's briefs. I've read everything relating to this issue. I've read multiple different related cases. I've read the rules of evidence. I've read the commentary to the rules. I've read rules, from different jurisdictions. Like, I know this issue. I understand the issue. And in my judgment, it's like, I think that these cases I think that there's something to be said. Is it 1-to-1? No. And in my own video, I said it wasn't 1-to-1. I know it's not 1-to-1. It's not a perfect match. But, in both situations, you have a jury saying they can't decide. In both situations, you have a judge issuing a deadlock instruction. In both situations, you have the jury returning a note saying, we're still hung. In both situations, the judge is making some questionable decisions, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, there's some comparability over here. And I'm getting absolutely torched. I'm getting absolutely torched by some of my comment section who says I don't know what I'm talking about. And it kind of pissed me off. I'm not going to lie. It's like, I do know this case. I understand this case. I know exactly what's going on. I'm pretty well informed. Why am I getting roasted? It pissed me off. It just pissed me off. It's like, especially you don't understand Karen Reed or you don't understand the law. It's like, bitch, I understand the law. I've read the law. It's like, I understand exactly what's going on. I know exactly what the issue is. It's like, okay, the jury might have been hung on some charges, but not other charges, but the judge didn't give them an opportunity to reflect that. And it's like, okay, can the judge do that? And what does that mean? And how do we determine that? And everything else. It's like, Jesus Christ. There's a 30-hour debate on the Senate floor right now. Dems are trying to block a confirmation. We could watch some C-SPAN bullshit. So they're just doing a cloture call. And so they're doing their debate as part of a cloture call. Exciting. Yeah. I just don't like people saying I'm not informed when I've done my research and I think that this is the answer. It's like, it can piss me off. I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way. I've had a rough day today. My car got towed and it cost me $320. I'm not happy about it. So I was parked over the line. So my car was parked in more than one parking space and I got towed and it cost me $320. So I'm not happy, which I could have used for a lot of other things, including my watch fund. It's like I've recently gotten into a kick where I'm watching watch reviews and fantasizing over various watches I could buy. Towed from where? I was towed from the parking lot of my apartment complex. My apartment complex towed me for parking over the line. So I wasn't happy. They couldn't just come ask me. I mean, it was, late hours. It was a private tow truck company coming by to do what they do, private tow truck company, hunting. Yeah, I'm not really happy with my apartment complex right now. I'm not really thrilled with them. So, yeah. Does my car have a resident sticker? No, they don't do resident stickers here. Tow truck drivers are professional assholes? I noticed. Yeah, I noticed. Maybe I'll sue somebody. I don't know. The Senate is reminiscing about J6. We can watch some Senate bullshit for a while. The Senate is just doing a cloture motion. So they're just going to argue about whatever they're arguing about. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're just arguing some bullshit.
I was here.
Oh, it's Eric Solwell. Oh, fuck. We have to watch this guy? Fuck me.
When they were breaking windows to get in, I was here on the House floor. One of the floor managers that day opposing the efforts to overturn the election. I was here. When the Speaker was whisked out of her chair, I was here. When the Capitol Police first informed us there were rioters in the building.
Is Adam Schiff? Who am I thinking of? I don't know who I'm thinking of. I'm just confused.
Here, when the Capitol Police told us that we needed to get our gas mess out, I was here when we struggled to open the damn things that were in these sealed plastic pouches. I was here when those masks were deployed and it was a polyurethane bag you were supposed to pull over your head with an elastic band around your neck. I was here when the fan that circulates the air in those masks so that you don't asphyxiate, when the sound of those fans was everywhere on the House floor and in the gallery. I was here when Capitol Police told us that we needed to get out, that they cleared an exit route. We needed to get out. I was here when some of my Republican colleagues in the House, as I waited on the House floor and we could really hear those people banging on the doors to get in, said, "You can't let them see you." One of them said, "I know these people, I can talk to these people, I can talk my way through these people. You're in a whole different category." And I have to say, at first I was oddly touched by their evident concern for my safety. But my next impression was, if they hadn't been lying about the election, I wouldn't need to worry about my safety. None of us would.
How does this relate to apparently what we're doing is considering whether or not Scott Turner should be Secretary of Department of Housing and Urban Development? How is this germane? I don't know.
Donald Trump pardoning the folks who were attacking police officers that day. This wasn't about mercy. This wasn't about justice. These people hadn't made restitution or shown any repentance, far from it. This was about power. This was about a hope to erase.
Senator Kennedy's clip from X, that sounds promising. Give me a second. Let me find it. Let's see if we can find it. What am I looking for? Senator Kennedy gives a lot of remarks. To find the one that you are talking about is going to be a challenge. Yeah, you're going to need to give me more information if you want me to pull up this clip. You're going to need to give me more information. Defends Elon? Is this the one?
Now, President
Trump ran for office saying, I'm going to review every single penny in the federal budget. Now, how are you going to review the spending in the federal budget without reviewing the spending? And that's what Mr. Musk is doing. Now, many of my Democratic colleagues and some of the tofu-eating Buccarati at the USAID are screaming like they're part of a prison riot because they don't want us reviewing the spending. But that's all Mr. Musk is doing, and he's finding some pretty interesting stuff. To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect, call somebody who cares. They better get used to this. It's USAID today. It's going to be Department of Education tomorrow. And really, here's what's going on. For 4 years under President Biden, the people in charge ask one simple question. Who needs to pay more in taxes? Who needs to pay more in taxes? Well, that's not the question that the Republicans and President Trump are going to ask. Our question is, what the hell happened to the money? And that's all that's going on.
$520 million for consultant-driven ESG investments in Africa, $45 million to DEI scholarships in Burma. Why are your Democratic colleagues seemingly more freaked out about cutting U.S. aid? This is our money. Do you know how much $1 million is? 520? I mean, we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars over the years on this madness. What are they thinking? We have $40 trillion in debt.
If you notice, my Democratic colleagues and the USAID officials, they're not defending the spending. All they're talking about is process. Oh, it's an insurrection, and Elon Musk doesn't have the authority. Well, sure he has the authority. The president gave it to him. And all he's doing is looking at the spending, just what the president said he was going to appoint Musk to do. Here's what I hope Rubio and Musk do. I would put together all this absurd spending into a booklet. I'd call a press conference, and in front of God and country and the corporate media and the USAID folks and my Democratic colleagues, I'd go over it, item by item by item, every bit of it. The DEI comic books, the transgender operas, the funding of gain-of-function research. I'd go over every bit of it and say, now, do you want to defend this? And they won't. They can't.
Nice. That's pretty sharp.
And budget, and we know it because of his work in the last few years.
Oh, good. It's Klobuchar.
Despite not even being in the office yet, he has already, through his work on Project 2025, driven a reckless budget decision that created immediate chaos and uncertainty across the country. The duty of the Office of Management and Budget Director is to assist the President of the United States in faithfully executing the...
Again, I'm not 100% sure why we're talking about OMB with respect to a confirmation for Department of Housing and Urban Development. Not quite sure how those two things are necessarily related, but, okay.
Laws passed by Congress. Notably, this does not include single-handedly turning off federal funding. It was just a few weeks ago that Donald Trump was inaugurated. And that day, as chair of the year-long inaugural committee, I made the point that there are 3 branches of government. Otherwise, we would have had the inauguration at some countries, a presidential palace, or in some gilded executive office building. In fact, that inauguration was in the Capitol for a reason. And that is because in our country, we have 3 branches of government, 3 equal branches of government. And Article 1 of the Constitution makes it clear that the Congress makes decisions about funding, the Congress. And in this case, on a bipartisan basis, year after year after year, and it's not easy, and it always can be a mess to the end, but we come together, Democrats and Republicans, and make a decision about funding. And it is the job of the executive branch, in addition, of course, the President of the United States, signing off on this, but the executive branch then implements it. But in this case, things are backwards and upside down when the Office of Management and Budget comes in with a plan that had actually been devised by this nominee to freeze the funds. Millions of Americans awoke to find that vital federal funding had been frozen, not by Congress, not by a confirmed official.
I don't know if it's Stockholm syndrome or whatever, but I kind of want to go back and watch Harris. Harris is like so banal that like you kind of forget how much she sucks. It's because she's so thin and so vapid and so vacuous and so trite. That's like, it's like, was she really that bad? It's like, it's like you forget or something. Either that or it literally killed my brain cells and I don't have the capacity to have stored long-term memories anymore. That's fun.
In an administration, but by tonight, he was not in the administration, but his fingerprints were all over this scheme. According to reports, he was a driving force behind the administration's decision to freeze federal funding. Stephen Miller even credited, someone very close to Donald Trump, even publicly credited Vogt with coming up with the idea. It was Vogt's plan that led the administration to take an action that hurt millions of Americans. Now, I have heard from constituent after constituent terrified about, is this federal funding freeze that clearly the administration wanted to do, and then a court stepped in, and it's only temporarily paused. But I've heard from my constituents, because for some of them, their funding is still in trouble. Others don't know what's going to happen next. So here are some Minnesotans, regular people, what they had to say following the decision to unilaterally, unconstitutionally cut off support that families across the country rely on. One constituent wrote to me saying, the late night decisions, the freezing of federal funds already appropriated by Congress from an undisclosed group of entities is outrageous, illegal, and gross mismanagement. It is the throwing of lives of your constituents into fear and chaos. She continued, the administration is offering conflicting information and no real answers as to what is going on. Even more money will need to be spent. This is going to be challenged in court. It's going to be a mess. Instead of just working it out, what a waste. That's right. There's a budget coming up. There's decisions to be made about taxes. There is time to debate this and decide, even if I don't agree with what the president wants to do, but there is a very clear way that this should happen, and this is for the upcoming budget. But instead, want to make a big scene, want to hurt a lot of people, that's what happened. Another constituent wrote in, concerned about her client, someone works in the area of mental health, and she talked about how her clients rely on some of this funding. She said, executive branch interference with this funding not only creates massive economic harms, but also directly violates the Constitution's delegation of spending powers to Congress. Now, I will say there's a silver lining here. Regular people are actually looking at the Constitution. They're saying, how can this happen? How can an unelected billionaire come in and try to get data? How can you just stop funding in the middle of one day with one single memo from someone that's not even elected? So like, maybe I should go look at the Constitution. What does it say in Article 1? What's my role in this as a citizen in electing people? Another Minnesotan wrote, I am a parent of a pediatric cancer survivor, and our family relied on the Katie Beckett program to survive before we moved to Minnesota. This program runs through state Medicaid, she explained, and it affords all families whose children have life-threatening diagnoses financial assistance as a secondary coverage, regardless of income, while they make their way through treatments and while recovering from the significant impacts of these treatments. Without access to this, she asked, what will happen to these kids? But then again, acting in this way does seem to be a pattern, and people are figuring it out. And believe me, there are a number of people in my state who voted for Donald Trump and voted for me, okay? And why'd they vote for Donald Trump? Well, they wanted change. They were worried about their costs. They thought, okay, maybe he's going to do what he says he's going to do. Maybe he's actually going to do...
Is it all Democrats who are speaking? It looks like it if I'm just thumbing through the timeline. So it's just the Democrats speaking to nobody? Oh, there's we could listen to him for a while. That'd be fun. What did Kennedy say earlier?
In dog years, that's 56 years. And it feels like 56 years. I've learned a lot, met a lot of interesting people. You know, before I got here, everybody told me about the Washington bubble. And I said, you know, how serious could they be? Well, it's true. There is a Washington bubble. This place is different. It's in its own way, sometimes disappointing, sometimes refreshing. It is deeply weird. For one thing, common sense is illegal in Washington. It's illegal. For another thing, I've discovered that this is a town of very frustrated ex-class presidents. And there's a Washington way of doing things. And when things aren't done that way, when somebody challenges the status quo, many, not all, but many of these frustrated ex-class presidents in Washington, on the Hill and otherwise, they get excited, not in a good way. They can't get their mind around doing anything other than the Washington way. Some of them, particularly in the media, they go almost catatonic, or the exact opposite. They foam at the mouth. And they really get upset. They can make a Valium nervous. It's like the world, we're not doing things the way we've always done them, and the world's going to spin off its axis. I want to try to put in perspective what many of my Democratic friends have been talking about today. They're very, very, very upset at President Trump. And they're very, very, very upset at Elon Musk. President Trump ran for president on a number of issues. One of the issues he ran on, he said it almost every day. He said, if you elect me president, I'm going to go through the entire budget and review all the spending, line by line. If I heard him say that once, I heard him say it 1,000 times. And that's what he's been doing. He went out and appointed, through an executive order, Elon Musk, who some people like him, some don't, but he's not a dummy. He's a very successful business person. He's got a top secret security clearance. President Trump issued an executive order, and he turned to Mr. Musk, and he said, Mr. Musk, I want you to do for me what I said I was going to do in the election. I want you to go through all the spending, line by line. Now, let me ask you something, Mr. President. How are you going to review the spending without reviewing the spending? How are you going to audit the spending by an agency without auditing the agency? That's what I mean when I say common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C. That's what Mr. Musk is doing. He's put together a crackerjack team, and they're going through everybody's spending line by line, item by item. And my Democratic colleagues are very, very, very upset. And they've been very eloquent. They've talked about the process, and President Trump's executive order supposedly violates the Constitution. And they've accused Mr. Musk of having conflicts of interest. And so I've heard people say he's sitting over there with a notepad, copying down everybody's Social Security number, and he's going to go use it to make money. I mean, people in this town, not just my Democratic colleagues, they're really upset. They've never said anybody question their spending. But that's what Mr. Musk is doing. But you know, I've listened. This has been going on for a week. People have been screaming like they're part of a prison riot. Oh my God, look at what Musk is doing. He's looking at the spending. And I've listened to people talk about the process and debate whether it's constitutional and discuss how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin. But you know what? I haven't heard one single person who's upset with President Trump or Mr. Musk talk about what he's found. They don't want to talk about the spending porn, the waste of taxpayer money that he's found. I mean, that's the point of all this. I tell you who is interested. The American people. The people in America who get up every day and go to work and obey the law and pay their taxes and try to educate their kids and try to do the right thing by their kids and try to save a little money for retirement, and have had to live through 20% inflation under President Biden. They understand what Musk is doing. They understand spending porn and wasting taxpayer money. Now, Mr. Musk started with the USAID. That handles a lot of...
That's a nice watch. I think it's a Cartier, probably. Like Cartier dress watch. That's a nice watch. Square watches aren't really my thing. But, you know, we can talk about watches because I like watches. That's probably a Cartier dress. It's nice.
A foreign aid for America. American people are very generous. In our country, you know, when you're homeless, we'll house you. When you're hungry, we'll feed you. In our country, when you're too poor to be sick,
that's the question. That's the question I want to know right now. I want to know the watches of Congress. I want to know every watch that's worn by a member of Congress. That's what I want to know the answer to.
Pay for your doctor, and we send a lot of money overseas to help our world's neighbors, and the USAID is in charge in large part of that. But I'll tell you what Mr. Musk discovered. I find it fascinating. He discovered that the American taxpayers are giving money to Afghanistan. He found that we are giving money to Yemen. He found that we are giving money to Syria. I didn't know that. Some of our foreign aid is going to Yemen, Afghanistan, Syria.
Do I know Nico? I do know Nico. He's fun. He's got a lot of energy. Yeah, and he doesn't like Halbut watches in particular. Yeah, I've been in a feed recently with, so I know Nico and I know Teddy, whatever his name is. That's interesting. I've been in a feed recently learning about watches and watch designs, and some of them are pretty cool. I'm getting sold on Grand Seiko though. I'll tell you what. I never really been a fan of Grand Seiko, but after watching like Teddy's reviews, I'm like, I'm warming up to Grand Seiko. I still don't think I'd have one that has a power reserve on the face. They do make ones that don't have a power reserve on the face. I checked, but that have a spring drive. But I'm warming up to it.
He found that the USAID has 10,000 people, 10,000 people, employees. And every year they give away $40 billion. Mr. Musk also found, and I'm not saying that all of this money is wasteful. I'm not. Some of this money, I'm sure, does some good. That's why Secretary Rubio is going to revamp the department and separate the good from the bad. But this is the kind of stuff Mr. Musk found. He found that the USAID gave money to support electric vehicles in Vietnam. Our money, taxpayer money. He found that USAID gave money to a transgender clinic in India. I didn't know that. I bet you the American people didn't know that. He found that the USAID gave $1.5 million to a Serbian LGBTQ group called Grupa Izladaji. I probably mispronounced that, my apologies. Anyway, they got $1.5 million to, quote, advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities. What else did Mr. Musk found that my colleagues don't want to talk about? Well, he reviewed a study and then went and checked it. The study was done by the Middle East Forum. They found that USAID spent $164 million to support radical organizations around the world. We're not talking Cub Scout troops here. We're talking about radical organizations around the world. They gave $122 million of that to groups aligned with foreign terrorist organizations. Our taxpayer money. According to this report in Mr. Musk, the USAID has given millions of dollars to, quote, organizations in Gaza, controlled by Hamas. Why aren't my colleagues talking about that?
We could talk about watches if you guys like, instead of doing this for a while. You guys want to talk about watches? We could talk about watches. Yeah, because I've been watching a lot of watch content recently. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's out there. What watches do you guys like? You have some self-winding ones. My Rolex is self-winding, and I don't have any mechanical watches. I've got this automatic. I think this might be the only automatic I have, actually. Well, no, that's true. I do have a pocket watch that's manual. An Omega Speedmaster, good choice. Cheap Timex, also a great choice. Timex makes some interesting stuff. Some of their vintage stuff is also really interesting. Tag, yeah, I do have one pocket watch.
Recipients of the money, they found, have, quote, called for their lands to be cleansed from the impurity of Jews. That's who we're giving foreign aid to. What else? I'm not going to spend my whole time talking about this, but nobody else is talking about it. They're just talking about the process and Mr. Musk, and he's a mean guy, and he shouldn't be looking at our spending. Well, he is.
Cartier tank.
And I kind of find what he's found out interesting.
Cartier tank is classic.
$2 million, USAID did, for sex changes in Guatemala. He found that we gave $20 million to produce a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. He found that we gave $4.5 million of taxpayer money to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. He found that we gave $10 million, USAID did, of meals to an al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group called the Nusra Front.
I have mixed feelings about Breitling.
Mr. Musk found that we gave $7.9 million of taxpayer money to a project that would teach Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gendered language. The USAID took $8 million and gave it to a bunch of journalists in Sri Lanka to teach them how to avoid binary gendered language. I don't know what the hell binary gendered language is. I think I do. You think most taxpayers would support that? Why aren't we talking about that? The USAID gave $1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica. They gave $1.5 million to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem. They gave $1.5 million for, quote, art for inclusion of people with disabilities in Belarus. Another $3.9 million for LGBT causes.
Citizen Chandelier? I'm not familiar with the Citizen Chandelier. I'm not familiar with that one. What does that look like? Citizen Chandelier. Let's take a look. That sounds promising. Citizen Chandelier as a men's watch. That looks great. No, I'd watch that. I'd wear that. Yeah, I'd wear that. That looks great. That's like a traditional, that's like a field watch. That looks great. Yeah. That looks cool. I like the Citizen Chandelier. That looks really nice. And green field watch. That looks cool. $206. Doesn't want to load though. Eco Drive. Oh yeah. That's a nice looking watch. $150, comes in either blue or green. Field watch style. Very nice. 100-meter resistance. Yeah, that's a cool looking watch. 42 millimeter. That's perfect. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, I'm into that. Light powered calendar date window. Yeah, I'm into that. I'd wear 100%. I wear that watch 100%. It looks great.
Yeah. $8.3 million for equity and inclusion education in Nepal. I could go all night. And many of my colleagues are upset. They're really mad at Mr. Musk. Hell, I think we ought to give him a medal. All he's doing is what President Trump said he was going to do. President Trump said he's going to audit the spending. So Trump goes and hires Musk, again with the top secret security clearance. Nobody can quibble with his intelligence. You know, the guy's as smart as Einstein's cousin. He's a very successful businessman. Some say he's the richest guy in the world. And he's doing the auditing. And man, he's finding a lot of stuff. I call it spending porn. Now, I'm not saying everything that USAID does is wasted, but I'm saying a lot of it is. A hell of a lot of it is. And we ought to be on the floor of this United States Senate thanking Mr. Musk. And we ought to be asking him to go through every agency and look at everybody's budget. Everybody's budget. That's what the American people want. They don't want to talk about process. They don't want to continue with the Washington way. They want to save some money. Now, let me tell you what's really going on here, too, Mr. President. For 4 years under President Biden, and for, 8 years under President Obama, and I respect both of them. I don't hate anybody. I don't. When I say my prayers at night, one of the things I ask God, God, don't let me hate, because it's hard in Washington.
Yeah, it's not for me, man. It's not for me. Yeah, it's not for me, but I think that's what he's wearing. I think that's my best guess anyway. It's what he's wearing, is the Cartier tank. It's not for me. I'm not a square. I don't really like the square watches. Yeah, it's not for me. But it's also like well out of my budget. Although the Reverso is a lot more interesting than the Cartier, to be honest. Which is also, I think, a little bit cheaper. I think it's only like $8,000, and I think it's a little bit more. Yeah, oh yeah, it's a little bit more cheaper. So the JLC Reverso is a much more interesting watch. It's only like $7,000 or $8,000. Here's one that's $11,000. That's a dual face. It's a reversible watch. It has double faces. So that's $11,000. That's a lot more interesting. The JLC Reverso.
Don't let me hate. I have all the respect in the world for President Biden and President Obama. Tough job. But between them, they spent 12 years in Washington. And presidents set the tone. They control the questions that are asked. And here's the question that President Obama and President Biden asked for 8 years. For 12 years. I heard it every single day. Who needs to pay more in taxes? Is it you? Is it you? Who needs to pay more in taxes? We need more money. Who needs to pony up more? That was the issue. But that's not the issue today. We have a new president. You know what the issue is?
And of course, there's always the moon swatch.
What the hell happened to all the money? What the hell happened to all the money? And that's what Mr. Musk is finding out. That's all this is about. And
I'm personally a fan of this one, Mercury.
Just shocked that my colleagues.
I think this is the one I want. I think I want this Mission to Mercury in this gray. I really like that a lot. That's $230. It's a beautiful watch. It comes in a lot of different colors. There's the Mission to the Sun. There's the Mission to Mercury. I think Mission to Mercury is my favorite. Venus in pink. You got the Earth, green. Mission to the Moon in black. Mission to Mars in red, bold. The Jupiter one in this bronze is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I could see myself wearing that one. Then the Mission to Saturn, this other brown. Uranus in this blue. That's a bold choice in that powder blue, man. Neptune in the dark blue. Dark blue is badass. Pluto with that beige and red offset's pretty cool though. So yeah, I think I want to. I think I might want to get the. I think I'm going to get the Mercury one. This gray I think is what I'm interested in. $230.
Have decided that this is a hill they're going to die on. How can you look the American people in the eye and support this kind of waste? Support this kind of spending porn? I mean, the election to me made at least one thing clear, that the American people are sick and tired of people in Washington denying reality. The last administration tried to convince us that we were living in a crime-free world where inflation was temporary and the border was secure. And the American people didn't buy it. You know why? Because it wasn't true. And the administration, our last administration, tried to argue that Bidenomics was making our lives better.
But one of the reasons I was really bummed out about like my $320 unintentional parking ticket thing or towing thing is because what I really am looking at the one that is sort of living in my head rent free is the Hamilton khaki automatic in 42 millimeter is the one that's living in my head rent free. I'll pull that up. $730 or something like that. Give me a second to pull it up. Where are you? Where are you hiding? Hold on. Here you go. $695. What a deal. $695. 42 millimeter lug to lug. A classic, absolutely beautiful field watch. I want it. I want it bad. It's living in my head rent free.
But the American people knew differently. They understood Bidenomics to mean I get to spend more to live worse. And they voted. Now, I mean, the American people were poorer under the last administration, but they didn't become stupid. They could see that the government was creating a problem, not trying to fix it. And they noticed the national debt, too. Put up that first chart for me. You know what our national debt is, Mr. President? $36 trillion. Not million, not billion. $36 trillion. It takes my breath away. Highest it's ever been, over 100% of our gross domestic product.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Our debt's growing faster than our economy.
That's very concerning.
And we toss around these numbers, a trillion, a billion, a million, a squillion.
Oh, thank you, Janice, for the watch fund. That's very, very nice of you. Janice, Janice, that's really, really nice of you. Thank you so much for your $50 super chat. That's really, really thoughtful. That's really, really thoughtful. Thank you so much, Janice. That's very, very kind of you. Wow, I feel honored and loved. Thank you.
I want to try to put this in context. If I started counting right now, and I counted one numeral, if you will, per second. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. For $1 million, it would be 11 days. For $1 billion, it's 32 and a half years. For $1 trillion, I don't know. I don't know what $1 trillion is, but maybe he's going to tell me.
5, 6, 7. And I kept counting all day and all night. I didn't sleep. I counted between bites of oatmeal at breakfast. I just counted continually. 1 numeral per second. It would take me 32 years to count to 1 billion.
Yeah, I think it's 32 and a half, but close enough.
32 years to count to 1 billion. It would be 2057. I'd be dead as Woodrow Wilson.
Okay.
That long.
That's a...
And that's just $1 billion. Our debt's $36 trillion. You know how long it would take me to count to $1 trillion?
I do not.
31,000 years.
Based. That's a long time. What were human beings doing 31,000 years ago? You know? I mean, the dawn of civilization is roughly... the dawn of modern civilization is roughly about 10,000 years ago. Maybe 12,000 or 15,000 years ago, right? When we started, like, doing agriculture, basically. So the dawn of agriculture is like 14,000 years ago. So what were human beings doing 30,000 years ago? Yeah, I mean, hunting and gathering, I guess.
If I counted one numeral per second. About as old as Chuck Grassley. 31,000.
Does anyone else that seems like not a lot of time. I guess it depends on your measurements, but like the dawn of modern civilization is like 14,000 years ago. Like, it doesn't seem like that long a time frame. You know, especially when you compare it to like the age of the earth or the age of the universe. I mean, it was yesterday. So human beings have come a pretty long way in a pretty short amount of time. Go Team Human. We kick ass.
Years. It would take me 1 million years to count to 36 trillion. Those are the kind of numbers we're talking about. And the American people understand it. Since 2019, America's population has grown 2%. We're not having babies. 2%. And that's after massive immigration. You know how much our budget has grown? 55%.
That's
55%.
That's pretty interesting. I never really thought about it in those terms. So that's an interesting. Yeah, the population is not growing very fast, but the budget is growing a lot faster than the population. Okay.
Yeah, we've had inflation, but we hadn't had 55% worth of inflation. That's how we got to this $36 trillion in debt. Put up the next chart for me. Now, some of this money we had to spend during the pandemic, and it was a bipartisan effort during the pandemic. Republicans voted for it, and Democrats voted for it because we had no choice. I was there. I saw it from the inside. We came this close to losing the American economy. And you know who helped a lot, doesn't get enough credit? Jay Powell at the Federal Reserve. I watched it. The whole world wanted to go into a cave and retreat. Back in the Great Recession, I remember all the other countries in the world who looked to us. They may hate us, but they know we're the greatest country in all of human history. They looked to America. And you know what? Back in the Great Recession, all the other countries wanted they wanted treasuries, treasury notes, treasury bonds. Not this time. They were so scared. They didn't want treasuries. They wanted dollars, cash dollars. So Jay Powell, thank the Lord, he goes over to the Federal Reserve. He opens what's called a currency swap line, and he told every country, you want dollars? I'll trade your dollars for your currency. And everything calmed down. He doesn't get any credit for that. But it was a gutsy thing to do. But on top of that, to save the American economy, that wasn't helping the American economy. We had to keep the economy going. We spent a lot of money.
I'd also like to point out, for my money, this is a lot more cogent than Kamala. I mean, you know, maybe it's a little dry, but it's cogent. Should we go back and watch some Kamala Harris so we can remind ourselves by comparison? I don't think we need to do that.
But then COVID ended. And what we should have done was go back to pre-COVID spending. But we didn't do that. President Biden, after the shutdowns and the coronavirus, the pandemic was over, passed the American Rescue Plan. COVID was over. He spent $1.9 trillion. Never let a good crisis go to waste. I didn't vote for it. Then he came back and passed what he called an infrastructure bill. It was really just the Green New Deal. I know what's in that bill. That was another $1.2 trillion.
B. Frank says you're canceling gifted memberships if you did. Oh man, okay. I will. You've been good, chat. You've been good. We don't have to watch the scary monster. We don't have to go back and watch Kamala. You've been good.
He passed the Inflation Reduction Act. I didn't vote for it, but that was another $1.0 trillion. And then he passed the CHIPS Act. This is really special. He said, big tech, the semiconductor companies need our money. They need taxpayer money. They're not making enough money. And he gave them money. He didn't give hardware stores money. President Biden didn't give the healthcare industry money. He said, I want to help big tech. And boy, they sucked it up like a Hoover Deluxe.
Okay.
We spent $280 billion subsidizing big tech. And you add it all up, and that's $4.3, almost $4.5 trillion. And that's how we got $36 trillion in debt. And that's why Donald Trump said, I'm going to look at every single line item of spending. And that's why he gave the job to Elon Musk. And that's why Musk is auditing these accounts. But nobody wants to talk about what he's finding. Nobody wants to talk about the spending porn, except the American people.
Did someone say spending porn?
Mr. President. They get it. And I hope Mr. Musk continues. My colleague and friend, we had a little discussion in banking today. Senator Warner makes a good point. He wants Mr. Musk to come over and talk to Congress about how he's doing this. I'm all for that. I am all for that. I would love to have him come over and walk us through what he's doing and how he's discovering all this spending porn. We need all the help we can get on reducing our spending because we can't continue at this pace. I just wanted to spend a few minutes putting all this in perspective, Mr. President. The world's not going to spin off its axis, folks. Every business that I know of goes through an audit. Now we're being audited, but we're being audited by, not by the usual auditors, but we're being audited by a person appointed by the President of the United States. And I'm betting you when he's through, and he's going to go to all these agencies. He's starting on the Department of Education next. I think he'll end up finding that some of our money is being well spent. But he's also going to find that some of our money's being stolen and it's being wasted. And that's an insult to every taxpayer in this country. So I'm going to end like I began.
Is Amy Klobuchar still speaking on the floor? How long can the woman speak for?
Maybe nobody else wants to hear about this spending.
She's been speaking for 40 minutes.
Well, I can't wait to read the book. I hope he finds all of it and compiles it. I hope Marco Rubio, our new Secretary of State, takes USAID and shakes them by the shoulder and lifts up the good people there and fires the bad people, the people that wasted taxpayer money like this, giving money to terrorist organizations, giving money to organizations that support Hamas. Hope he gets rid of every single one of them. And I think if we listen to Mr. Musk, we can save a lot of money. And I hope he does come over and explain what he's doing. I want to talk about one other subject real quickly. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to repeat it. This is India.
It is.
This is China.
Also correct.
To run the whole world. China's already trying to take over the shipping lanes in the South China Sea.
Yep.
This is the Chagos Islands, right down here. Years ago, the Chagos Islands were owned by France. France ceded the Chagos Islands to our friends in Great Britain, UK. And a number of years ago, the United Kingdom and America got together, and we built, mostly with American dollars, by the way, we built a military base in the Chagos Islands, on one particular island called Diego Garcia. And it's a really important military base. For one thing, it's very close to the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean in China, so we can watch them. For another thing, it's where it's one of the only bases where our nuclear submarines can dock. Hugely important. Well, the United Nations got mad at the United Kingdom. They said, Great Britain, you're bad people. You used to be colonialists. You acquired other countries, sometimes freely, sometimes by force. Every country I know of in the world of any strength has done that. Doesn't mean we ought to be proud of it, but it's part of our history. But the United Nations said, shame on you, UK. Shame on you. Bad, 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 bad. You have to give back the Chagos Islands and the military base there. And the UN doesn't have any jurisdiction over the United Kingdom. But the UN said, not only do you have to give it back, but you don't give it back to the people of the Chagos Islands. You give it back to another group of islands way down here called Mauritius. Mauritius used to own the Chagos Islands when France ceded them to Great Britain. They were run by Mauritius. But the people of the two island groups, archipelagos, the people don't have any affinity. Now, what's Mauritius say? Of course we'll take it. But they want to start charging the United States and the UK £9 billion for a 99-year lease. So we can lease our own military base. All because the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom feels guilty because somebody, some tofu-eating wokarati at the United Nations says they're bad people, bad colonialists. Well, and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, he's going along with it. But he says, I'm negotiating with Mauritius. And the people, the leader of Mauritius just issued a press release, said, yeah, he's negotiating. He's increased the price. And he's shortened the leash. Now, you know who's loving all of this? China. Because China has a close relationship with Mauritius. And you know what? It's going to get a lot closer. This is insane. This is cell deep stupid. This is bone deep down to the marrow stupid. Because the United Nations wants the United Kingdom to feel guilty, they want to give our military base and their military base to Mauritius. Now, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom can stop this. And Marco Rubio, our new Secretary of State, is against it. And I haven't talked to him directly, but I think President Trump is against it. The United Kingdom is our friend. I went to school there for a while. I love him. And I want to see the Prime Minister do well. But he needs to put down the bong. He needs to put down the bong. This makes absolutely no sense. And it's going to be a big part of his legacy if he gives away this island and our military base to, in effect, what will eventually be China. So I would say to the Prime Minister tonight, I don't mean any disrespect. I want to say this respectfully. I shouldn't have said the bong part. I'll take it back. Please, Mr. Prime Minister, don't do this. Don't do this. We'll stand with you in telling the United Nations who's upset with you to go fill out a hurt feelings report, because we're not doing it. We'll stand with you. Please say no. Don't give our military base away. It's going to really hurt the relationship between the United States of America and the United Kingdom. I know Donald Trump pretty well. I know Marco Rubio pretty well. They'll forgive, but they'll never, ever forget. Don't do it, Mr. Prime Minister. I've taken too much time. I'm sorry. I yield to my colleague from Virginia.
Well, my friends, I think that will end our stream. I just wanted to hear the end of his remarks since we started them. But this has been a very interesting stream indeed, a very interesting stream with the unedited glory. Yes. The glory that was the Kamala Harris interview. It was something. It was something. It was a thing. It was a thing, and it was an interview. That was recorded on video. And it was, I think, everything that we expected it to be. I think it was everything we expected it to be. I don't know why 49% of the population apparently voted for this woman. But I'm very, very happy right now Donald Trump is in office. Right? I'm very happy he's in office. And, you know, I'm not really sure about this Gaza plan. I'm not really sure what that's all about. And some of the EOs have some issues on them. The birthright citizenship obviously is going to be a huge issue. And there's other things in there with like, also like the buyout deal that they gave through OPM has legal issues on it. There's already been a lawsuit over that. So, but a lot of the EOs are solid because a lot of them are just relating to internal policies. And someone in chat said that the Attorney General is looking to take money away from sanctuary cities, which to me is just like the most base thing that we could possibly do, right? That's the answer, right? It's like, we can't force you to execute our law, but we can like make it painful that you don't. We can stop funding you. We can stop giving you money. It's like, take away federal support, take away federal money from sanctuary cities. It's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Do I think we can win on sending illegals to El Salvador? No, I think we should repatriate people to their country. I mean, that's the most logical thing to do. So I don't, yeah. But we've already stopped immigration, basically, or illegal immigration. We've stopped illegal immigration. We're deporting people at high numbers. Need to pick it up, but they're trying their best. And we'll see. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I've never really thought about whether or not you can send an illegal to a country other than their home country. I've never really thought about it. I don't know. Bonnie's first act is to shut down sanctuary money? Yeah. Is the FBI privacy lawsuit going to succeed? Probably not, no. I don't think so. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off for now. This has been fun. I hope you had fun. I had fun. It's been a good day. I'm going to get some sleep and hope tomorrow's a better day. That's my plan. My plan is to get some good, solid sleep and hope tomorrow's a better day. With less disappointments in my day. No, I have nothing left to talk about. I'm tired. But that's all right. We'll be on tomorrow. I'm sure Donald Trump will do something in executive order land that will get our attention. We'll do some more stuff for Donald Trump, so it'll be fine. And thanks to everyone who was supportive and so nice to me in the super chats today. You guys were very generous to me. Apparently torturing you. Apparently, I guess the lesson to learn here. Yeah, it's like I got a lot of super chats today. So what you're telling me is the content you want to see, channel, what you really want to see is more Kamala Harris content. That's what you're telling me. All right. So what do we need to do is we need to go back through 4 years of history and we need to start doing reviews of all Kamala Harris speeches and presentations she's given, because we need to make sure to give you that Kamala Harris content you really enjoy. I've been Uncivil Law. Until next time, I hope all is well. Cheers for now, my friends, and goodbye.